What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. After all this time making videos, and after seeing comments from you guys too, I've come to realize Bulma has never really been too important in my videos. Like, of course she does the usual stuff with the time machine, and that's kind of it. The whole reason this series started is because of her, and considering how important she is to the cast, I think it's about time I made a scenario surrounding her. But of course with what ifs, that would have to involve her being a Z fighter. People have suggested a ton of different ideas of how I can implement this, but I think I found a pretty good way to do it that makes sense, and is also relatively unique. And most importantly, in character. So that's what we're going to start covering today. In this brand new series, What If Bulma Was a Z Fighter? The most important part of the scenario is the fact that we need a motivation for Bulma. And the perfect motivation is King Piccolo. Or rather, something he does. Bulma finds it pretty interesting that Piccolo did all of this to gain his youth again. But that's not really that important to her. The thing that gets to her is the fact that one day, she's going to be old and wrinkly like King Piccolo. She doesn't like that idea. Bulma is pretty vain when it comes to her looks, so maybe this would weigh on her. Of course, she doesn't have to worry about it for a while. But she starts thinking of potential solutions. So she could use the Dragon Balls to preserve her youth, but that might be going too far. Especially now while she still has her youth. And also, it's too unnatural. We see this verbatim in Superhero and Broly. She doesn't like to go too far with her wishes because she wants it to look natural. But she gets an idea. Maybe being more active will help her. But even better, she wonders what the cosmetic effects of Ki are. She asks Roshi first, and honestly, he has no clue. But he does mention he's over 300 years old. Granted, his old age is for a different reason, but Bulma doesn't even ask about that. She thinks for being as old as he is, he looks pretty good. Honestly, she doesn't care about living long, she just cares about having those good looks for long. And she wonders if he'll train her, just to get the basic principles of Ki down. First of all, he tells her that's very advanced training. Training with him is a good stepping stone, but isn't the only thing she'll need. And also, a true martial artist won't just train to look good. They have other reasons to train. But Bulma doesn't like that answer. She's just gonna have to find out herself. She could ask Goku, but he's already with Kami, so she has no way of getting to him. But thankfully there's a few other people around her, specifically Tenshinhan, Yamcha, and Krillin. Krillin's surprised to hear that she wants to train to learn Ki. But just like Roshi told her, she's gonna need a lot more than that. You can't just jump into that. You need to have an understanding of martial arts too. Ten says he'll be glad to show her the ropes. He is a pretty great martial artist, and of the three humans here, he is the strongest right now. And this actually interests her. That sounds great, she'll just train with Ten. But Yamcha gets wind of this and doesn't like it one bit. That scoundrel Ten is trying to steal Bulma from him. Really, he's just trying to help her, but Yamcha thinks otherwise. This is right after King Piccolo happens. And Krillin actually thinks the same thing. They still don't really know what Ten's like, but he was a pretty bad guy up until like a few days ago. But he nudges Yamcha and tells him this is a perfect opportunity. Think about it, this way he gets to grow stronger while training, but also strengthen his relationship with his girlfriend. And he tells Yamcha too, if he trains more and grows stronger, he's gonna really impress her. Yamcha doesn't know why he's taking advice from this kid, but yeah, Krillin's right. It's time for Yamcha to take initiative. So he steps up to the plate and decides he's gonna start training Bulma. Although Ten does have to help out because he has a better understanding of martial arts than Yamcha does. But now Yamcha gets to at least be involved, and can try to impress Bulma along the way. And now begins her journey of learning to use Ki. And she does stick with it. Krillin isn't too surprised. Once she gets challenged to do something, she's gonna see it through. But she is starting from square one, so she has a long way to go. Roshi eventually decides to have her join the Turtle School. This is a few months in, and she starts doing the training Goku and Krillin did. So, it's probably getting pretty serious by this point. So, there's two things I want to address first. One, Bulma's design. I could just slap a Turtle School gi on her, but no. I want something more unique for her. So I was kind of debating what to do here. I did want her to have a new look every arc because that's what she always does anyways. But full transparency, that's not going to work for my videos because then I'd have to commission a bunch of different arts for pretty much every part of the series, which would take a lot of time and cost a lot. Unless I drew it myself, which would take even longer. So I kind of had to settle on just one design. And I really like this one right here. Obviously it's a fitting design for Bulma because it's an official design that was used. And there are a few others that I almost chose from, which I'll show on screen here, but this is what I'm going to use for her design. It's fitting for Bulma, it can be practical for battle too, at least if she takes the coat off, and most importantly, I like how it looks. And another thing to address is her motivation here. This is more of a side note and not really anything too important, but her original motivation is the fact that she wants to maintain her youth. And it's actually an addition I'm going to make to Ki here in this story. Obviously she won't know for a while if this works. But there's two reasons I'm doing this. One, with the more energy he ate, Moro actually was able to restore his youth. Granted it's a very different scenario, but still, worth mentioning. And on top of that, yes, this is a JoJo reference. Mainly referencing Hamon and how it can keep its users looking young. Completely different series, completely different power system, but it was worth mentioning here because it did inspire me. And it also lets me put Joseph Joestar right on the screen right here. I love you, Joseph. Anyways, back to the story. We eventually arrive at the 23rd World Tournament, and Bulma's actually going to enter here. It'll be the first true test of her abilities. And that test comes before the tournament even starts. She's in the preliminaries, and one of the people she has to fight is Cyborg Tao. This guy kind of freaks her out. Besides the cyborg stuff, he's an assassin. But she might be the perfect opponent for him. He actually does overpower her in terms of raw strength, and also raw abilities. But Bulma's able to do something against him that most other people wouldn't be able to do. Bulma is a genius when it comes to tech after all, and this battle is tough for her at first, but then she finds a flaw in his design. And with this small flaw, she's able to exploit it, causing his cybernetics to basically completely fall apart, putting him at a huge disadvantage and allowing Bulma to knock him out of the ring, letting her go on to the actual tournament itself. Of course, Goku's watching the entire time. He already heard that she was training, and now this is the first example of it. When they said she was going to fight, he didn't think they were serious. He thought she was just here to spectate, but no, she actually is fighting. She initially started training to keep herself fit and look good, but honestly, she kind of likes this now. It's a lot of fun. And again, once she puts her mind to something, she's not going to stop doing that. And also, fighting Tao makes her think. She would probably never modify herself to look stronger. Again, she wants it all natural. Doing whatever Tao did, that would look terrible. Plus, on top of that, she's wary of using tech to gain her power, especially after seeing what happened with him. One small exploit and everything falls apart. No matter what machine she makes for combat, it could have a fault, so she doesn't want to risk that. That's something that other Z fighters brought up to her during her training, and that's why she's not using any sort of tech here to fight. Also because she's not training to be the strongest person ever. So for those 3 reasons, don't expect her to be making an Iron Man suit or anything like that in the scenario anytime soon. She is actually going to be a Z fighter and use her own raw strength, which I feel is a pretty fun route to go down still, especially with the type of fighter she's going to be when she's trained more. Now the actual tournament begins, and Bulma's probably not going to make it too far. The fact she's in the tournament itself is great. She made it past the preliminaries. And with Bulma defeating Tao, that means Bulma's going to be the one to fight Ten. And there's no question that he's going to win here, but he's still impressed with her strength and her abilities. Considering how she's only been training for a few years, she has grown considerably in that amount of time. Also, small side note, Ten's never going to get his chest scar here. It might show up in some of the arts in this video because I'll just forget, but yeah, without him fighting Tao, that's not going to happen. But we should just keep it. I think it's a cool little addition to his design. And it means I don't have to scribble out the scar on all his arts, so yeah, let's keep it for now. Let's let it slide. The rest of the tournament goes relatively normal. There is another thing to note, and it's the fact that Chi-Chi might actually be jealous of Bulma, hoping that Goku's not interested in her. She saw this in the preliminaries. First of all, Goku didn't even recognize her, and second of all, Goku seemed pretty friendly with that girl. Not to mention, he was impressed by her martial arts prowess too. Granted, Chi-Chi knows that she's the better fighter, and she'd love to beat Bulma in a fight to prove that. Although thankfully, things still do work out for her. She completely misread the situation, and she and Goku do get engaged, but it does stick in the back of her mind. And I think this is a nice little plot point to include. Just like Yamcha's jealous of Ten training Bulma, giving him more motivation to train, the same thing's gonna happen with Chi-Chi. She knows that Goku's impressed by her martial arts talent, and maybe it makes Chi-Chi think, hey, I want to start training more too. This way, Yamcha and Chi-Chi are both going to be more involved in the story, both for oddly simple and similar reasons. Obviously, both of these motivations won't last for a while. They're just kind of things that these two are thinking in the moment, but as they get closer with their partners and start training more with them too, it kind of just sticks in the background. And once again, Goku's gone for a bit, leaving with Chi-Chi and his friends don't see him for a while. Although over this time, they're all still interacting. Krillin, Ten, Yamcha, and Bulma still hang around together, mainly because a lot of the things they do involve training. Bulma is still far behind everybody else, so she's catching up, but she thinks she's found a way to train more efficiently. Now, she doesn't want to use tech for her strength, but she could still use it as a catalyst to gain more strength. As in, maybe she could build some things to help her train more efficiently. First, it starts with robots that she could fight with, but then she builds full-on training facilities, bringing along the other humans to train. And once she's got a better hang of everything, she might try and build a room that increases her weight, some sort of gravity chamber maybe. All her friends use weights from their training, so why not artificially increase that weight? But also during this time, she develops her own sort of fighting style. Yeah, she gets a hang of martial arts, but she's more interested in the ki aspect of it. And as she gets a better control on ki, she tries to figure out new ways to utilize it. This is still very advanced, not just for her, but everybody else. But she theorizes that maybe if she figures out how to focus ki into one place, she could change her attacks completely. Like maybe she can create some sort of construct out of ki. But first she starts very simple. She's able to coat her arm in ki and basically create a blade from it. It takes a lot of focus and power right now, but it's pretty cool, and she knows that she definitely wants to work towards doing more like this. So a big focus of her training is, well, focus. Trying to focus that ki. Trying to figure out how to harness it and materialize it into different things. This is definitely going to come into play later, and it's going to be a big part of her fighting style. Although, besides just training at her own facilities in Kame House, she eventually does go to Kame as well, basically having her drag Yamcha along. He still does want to keep up the good looks for her, so he's still going to keep training just to impress her. But that push from her is just what he needed. Her own motivation rubs off on him. And things are looking up for Yamcha. He might end up being the strongest human after all. Eventually, we get to a reunion at Kame House. The crowd there this time has a few more people. Obviously Roshi, Krillin, and Bulma are there, but also Yamcha, Ten, and Chaozu are there too. Both Goku and Chi-Chi are invited, and they eventually show up. Surprisingly enough, with a kid. Everything's fun so far, but far away they don't even realize that an alien just landed on the planet. Well, another alien, because he's not the first. Raditz meets with Piccolo just like normal, and then eventually finds Kame House. He has a pretty intimidating introduction, and he does underestimate everybody here, but little does he realize collectively, they all overpower him. At first he humiliates some of them. Krillin's the first one to step up and he gets tail whipped. Then Ten tries to approach him, but he's flung out into the water by Raditz. But then Gohan catches his eye. Both Goku and Chi-Chi stand in front of Gohan, protecting him from Raditz, but Raditz simply walks up to both of them, and with each fist, he punches them both aside. Well, if Kakarot's not going to join him, he'll just kidnap Gohan for himself, with Raditz quickly then flying off. Obviously everyone's going to chase him down. Bulma pulls out a capsule, and in it is a ship that could fit everybody. They all board on and follow Raditz. And as the ship takes off, Piccolo lands at Kame House. He was going to offer to team up with them, but it looks like Raditz already came here. He might be a little bit too late. And while we have the opportunity, let's cover everyone's power levels. Goku's power is 500, which is stronger than normal. This is because with his training, he's had a training partner, that being Chi-Chi. Although behind him is Yamcha, the strongest human who's at 460. But the others aren't too far behind. Ten's at 450, and Krillin's at 440. Then there's a little bit of a gap, with Bulma at 350. She did start later than everyone else, but 350 is a pretty high power level, especially considering that. Clearly she's made a lot of progress. Behind that is Chi-Chi at 250, and also Chaozu at 250. The reason Goku and Chi-Chi aren't higher is because, well, Gohan. There had to be periods where both of them didn't train, especially Chi-Chi. Goku at least could have done some more things himself, but it's not like he had a training partner that entire time, and Chi-Chi was out of commission for quite a while. Otherwise, both of them would have been a lot stronger. Now back to the story. Raditz gets back to his ship, placing Gohan inside of it. But then an aircraft lands nearby. He holds up an arm to shoot it down, but then quickly jumps back as his arm is almost skewered. Bulma was the first to jump out of the ship, throwing spears of ki down at him. Not spheres, spears. She's gotten a better control in creating weapons with ki. The downside is right now it takes a lot of focus still, and it takes up a lot of her energy. But these attacks are powerful, and had that spear actually hit Raditz, it probably would have gone right through his hand and his arm. Yamcha and Ten then fly out of the ship, fighting in unison as Krillin and Chaozu join in too. Goku and Chi-Chi rush over to save Gohan. And right after they're sure he's safe, Chi-Chi's ki then flares up, furious at the fact that Gohan was stolen. Obviously Goku's angry too, but we know how angry Chi-Chi can get. She then rushes in, getting a temporary power boost from this anger too. Goku's actually never seen her this mad, and it does help her fight. He just hopes it doesn't cause her to lose focus and mess up here. Raditz is being significantly overwhelmed. He has all these people fighting him at once, and not only is he outnumbered, but he is overpowered. And to make things worse, Bulma then focuses once more, this time creating a ring out of ki, basically a proto-galactic donut, throwing it around Raditz, and with all her focus, she's able to squeeze it together. But this basically puts her out of the fight because she has to put all her focus and energy into this. And it does restrain Raditz for a bit as the rest of them beat on him. Raditz struggles to break free from it, but at the very last second, his eyes widen as he sees something in the distance. Quickly he launches 2 ki blasts from his feet, rocketing to the air, breaking free from the restraints as something then grazes his leg. A powerful beam of energy flies across the battlefield. Everyone jumps out of the way, not even expecting it. And off in the distance, they can see Piccolo there, with Raditz just as surprised. It's that Namekian from before. They don't know why Piccolo's here too or what he's doing, but he says that restraint was a good idea. They should try doing that again. That'll allow him to get the kill shot. But little did he know, they were actually already fine. They didn't need Piccolo to intervene. And they've basically backed Raditz into a corner. And they look back into the sky and see he's actually gone. Oh yeah, they should have realized that would have provided him a good escape. They look over at a spaceship, and Raditz is actually retreating. Quickly the ship rockets off, but Raditz sees something out the window that concerns him. There's a ball of ki flying towards him. He tries to maneuver the ship out of the way, but nothing works. The ball keeps following him. And then, it hits the ship. The back of the ship is completely blown off, with the engine being damaged as it crash lands to the ground. Yamcha launched a spirit ball that followed the ship, with him successfully shooting it down. They all go over to where Raditz is, and reluctantly, he gets back up to fight, but he's clearly nervous. He's in over his head. He thought he'd be able to handle this, but he fights back, although he doesn't fight back for long. With all the energy he uses and all the injuries he sustains, Raditz eventually is defeated, no longer able to fight. He does have one last resort though. He taps on a scouter, trying to communicate with Vegeta. He tells them no matter what they do, the Saiyans are going to come to avenge him. Although they don't really plan on killing Raditz anyways, which comes as a surprise to him and Vegeta. Well, if they're not going to kill him, then Raditz tells Vegeta to come here and get him. He needs some way to get off this planet. Vegeta just laughs at this. He lost the fight and they're not even going to kill him. Why doesn't Raditz just eliminate them himself? Did that weakling actually lose the fight? Now maybe if he died, the Saiyans would come there. But they have no other reason to come to this planet anyways. They don't hear of the Dragon Balls, and Raditz is still alive. He can make it off there on his own. They have no reason to go. It doesn't seem like Kakarot is worth retrieving anymore, especially if he's too soft to even kill Raditz. Raditz keeps trying to ask Vegeta to get him help, but nothing works and Vegeta just ends up basically ghosting him. He could care less. There's nothing on that planet that's worth anything. The people there seem weak, Kakarot's weak and weak-minded, and Raditz is weak and weak-minded. Maybe they're better off without Raditz anyways. No one really has any idea of what to do with Raditz, and Raditz honestly doesn't know what to do either. Obviously, the first thought that comes to Raditz's mind is to just kill them all, but that didn't work out the first time. And a couple of them want to kill Raditz too. Mainly Ten, Piccolo, and surprisingly enough, Chi-Chi's also fine with them doing whatever they want. He did kidnap Gohan after all. Bulma might actually side with Ten and Piccolo because logically this would be the best thing to do. He did threaten to destroy everyone here after all and almost killed them. Also, she nearly killed Goku over destroying her car when he was a kid. So Raditz, she probably would have no problem killing. Goku takes the opportunity to ask him more about these Saiyans. So if there are others out there, are they at risk? Raditz tries to make it seem like the Saiyans are going to come one day, but they won't. Goku thought they needed him to take over some planet or something. So now they're going to do it without Raditz? Seems like they didn't really value him much in the first place. Honestly, Goku's not too concerned about it. It doesn't sound like they're going to show up, and if Raditz does cause any more issues, they beat him once and they could beat him again. And Raditz never did try to trick Goku here. At least, not yet. Goku originally was going to let him go and give him a second chance, so maybe he'd give him a second chance here too. They're not going to help him get off the planet either. Goku calls Nimbus and gets ready to fly off with Chi-Chi and Gohan. He tells Raditz to come and find him when he's gained some sense back. It was pretty fun battling him, and Goku would like to fight him again. Obviously in better conditions though. The others just look on confused as Goku leaves. Well, it is his call after all. It's weird for Piccolo because he thinks they should kill Raditz, but it's the same thing that happened with him after the World Tournament, with Goku sparing him despite having every reason to kill him. So then Piccolo flies off too, reminding Raditz that if he does cause any issues, Piccolo won't hesitate to kill him. After all, it is his world to take over. And just in case, Bulma snatches his scouter. They don't want him contacting anyone after all, and Bulma can try and study this, figuring out how it works and seeing if she could reverse engineer it somehow, mainly for the communication purposes. There has to be a ton of data on this thing. Eventually everyone leaves reluctantly. Right now Raditz is too beat up to fight anyways. He was defeated. Not only is his pride shattered, but pretty much everything in his body is shattered too. And he was abandoned by the other Saiyans. He can't leave either because his ship is broken thanks to Yamcha. No one cares enough to kill him, no one cares enough to save him, and it seems like he's stuck here. Leaving a weird mix of emotions. Mostly anger though. Although he might have one shot off this planet. That woman, the one who was piloting that ship, the one who took that scouter from him. Maybe she could fix his ship. Besides her taking the scouter and saying that she was going to reverse engineer it, her shirt had the same logo that the ship had, so maybe she built that ship too. She has to have some understanding of how to fix this. So what does Raditz do now? He's too hurt to fight them right now. And maybe out of spite he could go destroy a city or something. But that's just going to look pathetic and lead to his death anyways. Looks like his only option is to find Kakarot. But he doesn't know how he's supposed to find Kakarot. He doesn't have a scouter anymore. All he saw was the direction he flew off in, so he just tries doing that, flying off in the same direction that Kakarot went. It takes him a bit of time because he has to fly slowly and look for anything nearby. Eventually he's over a large body of water, and on there's a small island with a house on it, and he sees that same ship from before. This is the island that he was just at. They probably just all returned here, so he lands nearby. And he does see Goku again, yelling out at him. Goku clearly looks ready to fight, but Raditz isn't here for that. He asks Kakarot what he's planning, and Goku says he's not planning anything, and he grabs his brother by the shirt. He's planning to kill Raditz or something, right? Goku says no. Raditz saw Goku before, he's not a ruthless Saiyan like Raditz. That's not something he would do, and he doesn't really have a reason to do so, although a few other people probably want to kill him right now. But he assures Raditz that that's not what he's planning. He repeats to Raditz what he said before. He could stay here, but he's not going to help him get home. And if he does cause any issues, Goku will intervene again. Raditz tells Goku he's crazy if he thinks he's staying on this planet. He just needs his ship repaired and he'll be out of here. Well, Goku says he can't do anything, but Bulma's probably the only person who could. So he goes up to her, and before he can even say anything, she turns it down. She has no reason to help Raditz, especially because he's probably just going to come back here and kill them. And that's if his friends even end up joining him. It seems like they don't even care that he was stranded here. She can't be serious. Wouldn't it be better for them if he was just off this planet? Shouldn't they be scared that he's around here doing whatever he wants? Honestly, Bulma says she's not that concerned. They beat him once. Plus, thanks to these scouters, she's got a lot more data on the Saiyans. And for next time, they also know about his tail being a weak point. Frustrated not knowing what to do, Raditz contemplates just blowing up this entire island. But instead, he just launches up into the air, flying off into a random direction. Krillin asks if they think he's going to do anything bad, but Bulma says they shouldn't be worried. He's just a big man-child and he knows he's lost. Goku watches as Raditz flies off too, with Chi-Chi wondering if it was the right choice to let him go. But Goku says they'll be fine. Besides, he says the two of them fighting together will be able to take him down. Maybe even Gohan one day. Although, he thinks Raditz will act smart and not do anything. There's a little bit of a time skip here, about a year. Vegeta and Nappa actually don't come to Earth. They're honestly unconcerned about Raditz. Obviously Frieza wouldn't care either. Of course, Vegeta and Nappa won't mention that he got stranded on a mission trying to find a Saiyan, but they just say he got stranded on a mission. And that's good for Frieza. One less Saiyan to worry about, especially because he was kind of expendable anyways. How fun, the Saiyan got rid of himself and he didn't even need to lift a finger. It's not like Vegeta and Nappa could even blame him for it. And Nappa wonders if they really should get Raditz. He tells Vegeta maybe they'll need another Saiyan, but Vegeta says it doesn't matter. Raditz was weak anyways, and if he was defeated by those Earthlings, they don't need him. Plus, it didn't seem like Kakarot was that strong either. What use did those two have if they're just gonna be dead weight? Them combined doesn't even add up to half of Nappa's strength. Thinking about it that way, Nappa laughs it off. So yeah, at least for now, there's not going to be any involvement from the Saiyans, and there's no ties to Frieza either. And without knowing about the Dragon Balls, they're not going to be coming to Earth for that either. Over this past year though, what's everyone been up to? There haven't been too many interesting developments from our protagonists. Really, everything that happened just involves Raditz. Of course, he's trying to fix his ship and trying to get off the planet, but he has no clue how to fix it. Even if he did know, he doesn't think this planet is advanced enough for that. but he's been trying everything in his power to fix it. He curses everything though. He should just kill everyone on this stupid planet. It wouldn't be tough, he'd just have to kill the strong fighters individually and then take out the rest. Besides, after healing up, he did get a little bit of an increase in strength too. But it's not like he's been training or anything. He has kept going back to Caps Corp trying to beg for Bulma to fix the ship up basically, and Bulma is kind of tempted because the idea to make a ship with interstellar travel, but she's not going to help him, and she's now getting annoyed with him showing up so much, especially because at points it seems like he's hitting on her, which Yamcha doesn't like either. It looks like she's really not going to help here, but one day he thinks he's finally done it. The damage to the ship wasn't too bad, it's mainly the back part that was hit, and he just needed to patch up the engine. The issue is the speed that he needs to reach escape velocity. And then the engine should be powerful enough to speed up within space. The resistance here on Earth is what's keeping him down. Now, there are a couple ways around this. He could try and launch himself in the air and then try and climb into the ship, and it wouldn't be hard because launching a ki blast would have enough power to launch him out into space. But the issue is him climbing into the ship. He probably wouldn't be able to do it quick enough to actually survive it. So he has to fix the engine. And he thinks he has something, although if this doesn't work, he's probably going to die out in space. And at this point, it's whatever to him. He'd rather die trying than doing nothing. He launches the ship and at first it seems like it worked. He can't believe it, he actually fixed it. He just has a little bit more to go until he exits the atmosphere. But then everything starts shaking, a lot. In the nick of time, Raditz is able to jump out of the ship, thinking it's going to explode, or continuously go into space and then break apart. Either way, both aren't ideal outcomes. But the ship surprisingly stays intact. It just starts falling, crashing nearby on the land below. And Raditz is in a pretty strange part of Earth. It's very cold over here. Everything's frozen over. He looks around for the ship, and eventually does find it. Surprisingly enough, even though only a few minutes have passed, the entire ship is frozen over already. This damn planet, everything's pissing him off. Out of frustration, Raditz just melts everything in the area with the ki blast. He should just raise this entire part of Earth, melting everything here. But he keeps his cool, no pun intended. Causing a climate disaster won't be good for him either, at least not until he leaves this planet. A good chunk of this region is melted by him though. He picks up his ship, and then flies back off to where he came from. Roshi's chilling out at Kame House one day. There's a big wave that comes towards the house as something is dropped in the water, and hears someone yelling outside. He opens the door to see Raditz there towering over him, asking where that woman is. He needs to speak to her again. Roshi says she isn't here. He'll have better luck just going to Caps Corp. Besides him, the only other people here are Krillin, Ten, and Chaozu. Usually she does train here, but today she's just with Yamcha alone back at Capsule Corp. Fine, he'll just head back there. Hopefully this time she does something. He has to think of what to say though. Obviously he can't threaten to kill her because then he won't have a way off this planet. But he needs to convince her somehow to fix his ship. He steps out of Kame House and picks up his ship. But as he's about to take off, he sees something in the distance. It almost looks like a tsunami. This kind of makes him panic a bit because he didn't think he melted that much water. He thinks it's from that, but then he sees, as it's getting closer, there's something that's causing the wave. At first he thinks it's some sort of ship, but no. It's some giant mechanic structure coming towards them. Quickly, Raditz throws up a blast, evaporating all the water, but doing nothing to the mechanical thing behind it. The thing just flies through Raditz's blast, knocking him far away. The others all feel a massive power show up, and they see Raditz rocket back across the water. What the hell is this thing? In front of Kame House, there's a giant robot standing there. Unbeknownst to Raditz, the area he melted actually contained a lab enclosed in ice. Of course, he had no way of knowing this, and no one else knew what was going on either. But standing in front of them in Kame House is the now thawed out Dr. Wheelo, a scientist who was long ago frozen on the ice, now inadvertently freed by Raditz. He proclaims that this fight should be a fun test of his powers, and better yet, he might be able to find a body that he could use. That person he just attacked, the one who freed him from the ice, he does seem pretty powerful judging by his ki. Maybe he'll take Raditz's body as his own. They have no clue what this guy's talking about, or more importantly, who he is, or what he is for that matter, but the fact that he says he wants to take Raditz's body, yeah, that's clearly a threat. Roshi yells at them to move this fight away from Kame House at the very least. But before he can even finish his sentence, Raditz launches a powerful blast at Dr. Wheelo, sending him flying across the water, but not really doing any damage. He flies after the mechanical monster, and the three others follow him with Roshi staying behind. He would help if only he could fly there. Dr. Wheelo was launched across the entire ocean, landing in an empty beach at the other side. He purposely took that hit, wanting to see how powerful Raditz could be. He knew it wouldn't really do too much damage, especially because he was on guard when it happened, and this just confirms what he thought. This guy's body, that's the body he's gonna steal. A fight breaks out. Far away at Goku's house, he senses all of this going on, immediately wanting to leave to find out what's happening. Some giant ki showed up and it feels malicious. And despite Dr. Wheelo actually being mostly mechanical, his ki can be sensed. But then they get a phone call. It's from Yamcha. They were just contacted by Master Roshi actually, who told them everything that just happened. They're heading over right away. And Goku's gonna go too. It sounds like his friends are in trouble. Gohan stays home with Ox King, not coming along for the fight. Despite him actually having done some training, they don't want to bring him along for this, it's way too dangerous. But Chi-Chi actually does decide to go along, basically having to chase after Goku as he runs out of the house and then flies away. Since we're at a point where we still have power levels, let's actually cover the power of our group by now, because some things have changed. Raditz isn't necessarily part of the group, but we'll count him still because he is the strongest person on Earth right now. The multiple Zenkais he's gained really did help him, and after this year has passed, he's at around 4,000 in terms of his power. Not far behind is Goku, at a power of about 3,000. Next is Piccolo at about 2,500, and behind that is Yamcha and Bulma, both at around 2,000. And not too far behind there is Krillin, Ten, and Chi-Chi, all at around 1,500, with Chaozu at about 1,000, and even though he's not involved in this fight, for Gohan we'll put him at 200, but they haven't seen his full strength yet. As for Dr. Wheelo himself, he's never been in one of my videos, and I'm sure some of you haven't even seen his movie. Which I don't really blame you, it's not like important in the grand scheme of things, but I thought it would be fun to include him for once. But in terms of his strength, we will have to adjust him, especially because if we use his movie scaling, he'd be way too strong for this point, as with most movie characters. So we'll put him at around 10,000. But of course, as he fights, he gathers data on all the fighters around him, and he can even absorb their attacks to an extent. He adapts quickly during battle. He might be taking a little bit of a hit in terms of power when he steals Raditz's body, but it's definitely going to be worth it in the end. Having an actual humanoid body will be great. Although something is strange about that guy. He doesn't even seem human, almost alien-like. He is relatively new on this planet after all. He is dressed differently from the others and looks very different too. But Wheelo is not fighting everyone just yet. He doesn't want to destroy their bodies after all. First, he'll test them with the brutal warriors. He effortlessly holds everyone off, as he summons his brutal warriors, who are there to basically test all of Wheelo's opponents. This kind of pisses Raditz off. What, does he think they're not good enough for the main event? They fight these warriors off with relative ease, with Wheelo watching as everything goes down, learning more of their moves and abilities. And his mind is set on it. He definitely wants to take Raditz's body. But then he feels something approaching. There's a ship up above in the sky. Wheelo aims one of his arms up ready to shoot it down. But as he opens the claw to shoot a blast, something goes into it. It's a ki blast that almost homed in on him. Yamcha and Bulma jump out of the ship. Of course they weren't going to show up without defenses. Yamcha surrounded the ship with a couple of spirit balls, as they then explode inside of Dr. Wheelo's claw. He says that was pretty impressive. These two warriors came prepared. Wheelo's henchmen then yell out to him asking if he wants them to take out Bulma and Yamcha. And Bulma kind of recognized the name. Dr. Wheelo, she's heard of that before. Of course, when they said they were fighting a giant mechanical monster, she wouldn't have known. But she's read about that in a journal before. She remembers hearing that name. He was apparently some really brilliant and almost insane scientist. And he's from a while ago too. Decades ago, he disappeared without a trace and no one knew what happened to him. It's strange too because she feels like she's heard about another doctor like that, someone who delved into madness over machines, and then just disappeared off the face of the earth one day. But that name escapes her, and that isn't important right now. Not long after, Goku and Chi-Chi land nearby too, and the brutal warriors are defeated. But that doesn't mean Dr. Wheelo is going to fight just yet. Again, he doesn't want to damage that body that he's going to steal. And he does want to analyze their abilities a little bit more before he fights them. The more data, the better. Plus, there's a few things here that make him want to change his plans. Dr. Cochin did tell him about that scientist Bulma there. Sure enough, that is her. He's surprised to see that she's fighting too. He's not sure how strong she is as a warrior, but he knows her smarts are valuable, so maybe he could try to utilize that from her. What a lucky day for him. He gets freed from the ice, he finds the perfect body to steal, and he could probably even extract Bulma's brain to get some data out of that too. Plus, he has a little fun idea in mind. He has one more warrior they still haven't fought, and maybe he could have a few of them join his side. The reason his other bio warriors were gone for so long was because, well, they were trying to get another ally to join them, mind controlling someone that they were familiar with. And it seems he's fully mind controlled at this point, and luckily for Wheelo, he showed up at just the right time. The sense of familiar energy entered the battlefield. It's Piccolo, looking a little bit different from normal, having been brainwashed by Dr. Wheelo. Maybe he could brainwash a few of the others. Even though he's not going to steal their bodies, he does have fun experimenting, so having a few more warriors under his control could be pretty beneficial. Wheelo then opens one of his claws, swiping Raditz up. He has to thank him for all this. They spotted him at just the right time. He was the one who melted the ice. Dr. Cochin was just going to use the Dragon Balls to unfreeze the ice. But this was much easier. What the hell are the Dragon Balls? This is the first time that Raditz is hearing of them. Not that it matters. Dr. Wheelo launches off, bringing Raditz back to his lab. Of course, everyone tries to chase him, and Piccolo's about to stop them from going, but Ten, Krillin, and Chaozu then attack him together. They say they'll hold Piccolo off. He's clearly brainwashed right now and not in the right state of mind, but they should be able to take him on pretty easily. They tell the others to go after Wheelo, with Bulma then throwing a capsule down, spawning another ship, as she, Yamcha, Goku, and Chi-Chi get aboard it, ready to chase down the Doctor. Of course, Wheelo notices that he's being followed by them. He does need some space right now, especially if he's going to try and take Raditz's body, but he will fight some more. It's going to be easy to fend everyone off, and then he can finally get rid of them, able to replace his body with Raditz's. And even better, he can extract Bulma's brain as well. So maybe her chasing him down is a better thing. It's an upside, not a downside. The group arrives, and oddly enough, Bulma pulls out a scouter. Yamcha wonders what she's doing with it. They could sense Dr. Wheelo, and she knows how to sense ki pretty well by now. But she says it's not that. She's modified this. It's a pretty useful device, and she's made some upgrades to it too. This was actually inspired by Tao. Wheelo is almost fully mechanical, which means there's probably some mechanical things she could exploit. Maybe there's a flaw in his design or something. Maybe there's some sort of weak point there that he didn't even realize was there. Obviously, she doesn't know for sure, and he probably wouldn't even know either. But that's what this device is going to do. It's going to try and analyze every little bit of Dr. Wheelo and see if it can gather any data. But it's going to take some time, so they're going to need to fight him for a bit. It can't analyze everything instantly. Dr. Wheelo definitely overpowers them, but maybe with this, they could find a way to get ahead. It'll help them easily strategize a win too. It's pretty funny to her because this is just built to help her with developing different items. Basically beta testing any of the tech she makes, but in this battle, it's actually going to be very useful. Due to his size, Dr. Wheelo is also kind of weird to fight. He's not really too concerned. He's got enough data from all these fighters, and there's only 4 of them here too. Even the whole group wasn't enough to face him, but these 4 alone, that's going to be even easier. But he notices some weird laser pointers aiming at him. It's from Bulma's scouter. They basically pinpoint any weak points in Wheelo's body, pinpointing all the flaws in his construction. He doesn't even realize what's going on first, but then they start attacking him. Even with the weak points pointed out, they can't really do too much damage with it. There still is a huge gap in power, but this helps to make their attacks somewhat effective at least. To them, it's basically going to be a death by 1,000 cuts. They're going to have to slowly wear him down. Yamcha, Bulma, and Chi-Chi do most of the work. Chi-Chi focuses on fighting point blank, using only melee attacks, while Bulma and Yamcha keep their distance. They even do some more combo attacks together. By now, Bulma has an easier time creating things out of ki. So she creates a few projectiles, giving them to Yamcha for him to attach a spirit ball to, basically being aimbot for her. Goku tries to save Raditz. This works twofold because for one, he gets to make sure that Wheelo doesn't get to steal his body. 2, Wheelo's really focused on protecting Raditz right now. So with Goku going after him, that's a good distraction. And of course, Goku's not just going to let him die there. And Wheelo actually starts feeling some effects from these attacks. It's actually working. He doesn't know how they did it, but they're finding weak points in his construction. He blames Bulma. It's probably whatever device she has on her face. Goku gets in close, but Wheelo knocks him away, taking away his attention as Chi-Chi and Bulma attack together, simultaneously launching a Kamehameha at one of his weak points. Yamcha then quickly throws a spirit ball right under Goku's feet, which he uses as footing, jumping back up once more and grabbing onto Raditz, while also launching a flurry of ki blast down at Wheelo, mainly just to blind him. And he's barely able to do it, pulling Raditz out of his claw. Raditz is mad at accepting his help though. He says none of this would happen if they let him leave this planet. How does Wheelo relate to that though? And then Raditz explains what he was trying to do. First of all, Goku's surprised that he didn't even try to leave. He didn't even realize that the ship was fixed enough for that. But more importantly, he says this is kind of on Raditz. He didn't need to get mad and just melt everything over there. But maybe if they didn't let Raditz go off on his own, this wouldn't have happened either. It doesn't seem to matter though. Wheelo says he would have awakened regardless. And no matter what tricks they use, they're not going to win. Raditz can't fight right now due to his injuries. But thankfully, a few other people fly over. Ten, Krillin, and Chaozu, with Chaozu telekinetically carrying an unconscious Piccolo. And Wheelo sees his plans falling apart. Of course, he didn't really plan anything either. This all happened on a whim. Maybe he was too arrogant, too confident in his own strength. And why wouldn't he be? He's so much more powerful than everyone else, so much smarter than them too. He is impressed with their abilities, not only their strength, but their strategy, their teamwork, and probably most interesting to him, the smarts that Bulma utilized. And she's a strange case. He's impressed that she's even fighting in general. Her brain combined with her fighting expertise, she makes for a pretty powerful warrior. And this just fuels him even more. He needs to get a better body. He needs to preserve Raditz for himself. And same for Bulma. He wants to analyze her, extract any info from her brain that he could use. He'll be the smartest and strongest thing in existence. He already is now, but he'll be even better than before. Imagine that, a powerful alien body with the potential for growth. He still doesn't know much about Saiyans, but it seems like they're very powerful compared to humans. That strong Saiyan body with the knowledge of the smartest scientists on Earth. He'll be unstoppable. He just needs to make it through this, and he has one last resort. He does need to be careful about this though. It's a powerful attack, but it might destroy the people that he's trying to use for himself. Wheelo then suddenly stops fighting and launches high up into the atmosphere, and they try to follow after him, wondering where he's going. Is he retreating back to his lab? That's not gonna work. They know where it is. They just need to land a few more powerful attacks on those weak points, and he'll probably be dismantled. Bulma's scouter has been pointing out even more weak spots. They're exposing new flaws by exploiting the old ones. They almost have victory, and they can't let him get away. It's far too dangerous. They start getting really high in the atmosphere, and they're almost in space. They can't go too much further. But Wheelo continues going upwards, and they sense his ki spiking. They can't even see him, he's out of range right now. But Ten can. He focuses in, and he picks up something kind of terrifying. It looks like he's charging an attack aimed directly downwards. And it's no normal ki blast. It looks far stronger than any of the others. His entire body's glowing, and whatever this is aimed right towards them. It's not like they can go up and fight him either because they'll die in space. And they could use long-range ki attacks, but at this distance, it might be kind of hard. There's only one way they can go, back down. They have to go back down to the surface, defending against whatever this is. Wheelo continues charging his attack, his ultimate move, the Planet Geyser. As everyone makes it back down to the surface, Raditz asks them what's going on, and they say he's launching some sort of attack back down here, and they need to defend against it. He calls them crazy. That's not gonna work. They saw how powerful he was. But Goku says it's their only option. And then another voice butts in. It's Piccolo, still injured from his previous fight. But he says he's gonna have to agree with Goku here. Their only other option is standing there and let it happen. If this really will lead to their death, they might as well go out trying to defend themselves. There's a small flare of light in the sky, and it starts growing larger and larger as it comes down, as the Planet Geyser is fully charged, being launched directly down. This will probably kill everyone down there, but hopefully it keeps their bodies intact. That way he could still use Raditz and Bulma. Goku and Chi-Chi start off with their own Kamehameha, with Yamcha and Bulma then joining in, followed by Krillin and surprisingly Ten. Well, if that's the attack that everyone else is doing, you might as well keep it the synergy. It's pretty easy to copy too. And Chaozu joins in as well. The group launches a powerful collective Kamehameha, with all their beams swirling together, meeting the planet geyser midair. And weakly from the ground nearby, Raditz lifts a hand up, launching his own blast as he props himself up, with Piccolo even joining in too. Every attack merges into one point, entering a beam struggle with the planet geyser. But Wheelo's attack is so massive, it's hard to hold back against. It's not a normal beam, hell the planet geyser isn't even a special move, it's an actual weapon that he has. As the planet geyser gets closer and closer to the ground, it spreads outwards. But Yamcha has an idea. Everyone needs to stay down here to defend against the attack, but he can leave. He asks Bulma for her scouter, and asks her to make a couple of those spears again. She wonders what he's planning, but he doesn't even say. He launches upwards into the air, holding a couple spears that Bulma gave him. And as he's flying upwards, he attaches some spirit balls to the back of them once more. And it's just like he thought. Wheelo is still up there, but he's coming closer to the planet, coming down to the surface to try and push the beam back. And now he's in sight. Yamcha uses the scouter to locate any weak points on him. And then, he throws all the spears out. Wheelo sees them coming towards him. He still has to focus on his current attack, but if these hit, they might kill him. He knows they're targeting his weak points by now. And reluctantly, he stops launching the planet geyser, quickly moving out of the way and launching towards Yamcha, dodging all the spears that were thrown at him. But just as he's about to grab onto Yamcha, Yamcha controls all the spirit balls, circling them back around. He didn't need to aim for weak points on the front of Wheelo, actually the opposite. Before Wheelo can grab onto him, the spears penetrate through his back, skewering him and knocking him downwards, with Yamcha quickly launching a blast to knock himself backwards. Wheelo tries to recuperate, but it's already too late. He plummets down directly into the combined beam from below. How is this possible? Has he actually been defeated? There's no way out of this. He accepts his fate and acknowledges that he's been bested by his opponents. Well done. He would have really benefited from taking everything from them. The spears that skewered him then explode, with the beam then colliding with Wheelo, completely breaking him apart as his weak points get exploited, with pieces of him raining down from above, including his giant brain, which is kinda disgusting, but that just confirms that everything's been dealt with. Yamcha lands back down, with Bulma cheering him on and thanking him for that. But he thanks everyone else down here. It was their beam that did him in after all. He just acted as a catalyst to kill him. And Bulma finds it very weird that guy used technology to grow stronger. Like, look at her. She was able to do it all naturally. Plus, she gets to keep her good looks while she's at it. That dude was ugly as hell, and giant, and not human looking. And he still lost. He gave up everything, and it wasn't worth it in the end. It reminds her of Tao in a way, although much more extreme, making her even more wary of using tech to become stronger. She gained strength through hard work. But using the scouter in this battle did help her. While she doesn't want to use tech as a crutch to grow stronger, she could use it in tandem with her strength. She doesn't need to install herself with different robot parts to make herself stronger. But tech can help her grow, being used as a tool for her training, or even for battle. Following the encounter with Dr. Wheelo, there's a bit of a peace period on Earth. Piccolo slowly assimilates more with the group. The same does kind of happen with Raditz, but is a lot more gradual. It's more so everyone just learning to tolerate him. And a couple rivalries emerge from this period of peace. Of course, there's Goku's rivalry with Piccolo, with Bulma and Chi-Chi still being rivals here too. But there's two other surprising ones that emerge. One is a rivalry between Ten, Krillin, and Chaozu. This one isn't really too weird, since they were always together anyways, but this is mainly because they've been outpaced by Goku. And while Yamcha kinda is close to their level, he has a different rival that he's focusing on surpassing. And the rivalry isn't really too friendly, and that's Raditz. Yamcha still doesn't really like Raditz too much, especially because at one point he was trying to steal Bulma from him. A while ago for Yamcha, he thought that Ten might try and steal Bulma, but that never happened. And it's not even something that he'd do. But Raditz, Yamcha is actually kind of annoyed by him. It's not like anything he does will work anyways. But Yamcha just wants to be able to beat him up just in case he needs to. Also because Raditz still kind of might be a threat to them, even though he's kind of calmed down a bit. And despite Goku being the target of Raditz in the first place, he's actually the most welcoming of Raditz, which doesn't really surprise everyone else too much. Most of them were Goku's enemies at some point, so it isn't too strange. Bulma also developed something pretty interesting. From all the parts of Wheelo that fell from the sky, she gathered them up, mainly because she wanted to make sure that he's really dead and that he wouldn't be put back together. But also she did want to study him, see what kind of tech he was working with. And she's repurposed the different parts of him, basically building different copies of Wheelo. They're a lot weaker and they're fully robotic. They're only going to be used for training here, basically robots that they could fight. She's mainly only using the parts for him because, well, the build that he had was pretty interesting. The materials he used seemed pretty durable, and despite some of the flaws, the construction was pretty good too. So she saw an opportunity, and now she has a few drones to train with. Goku finds this kind of funny because it reminds him of Vader. These things aren't really androids like him, but it does bring him back down memory lane. Speaking of Goku, he does want to reach a new level of power, and doesn't really know where to go next, but Kami points him to King Kai, getting him a pass to that planet. And Goku just abruptly leaves one day, with Raditz wondering where his brother even went. He'll train for Kakarot's return and will beat him, no matter where he is. And Piccolo also kinda has the same mindset. He still hasn't fully beaten Goku, and you know, Maybe him and Raditz have something in common. Why not work together? Interesting. Does this Namekian want to take over the planet too? No, it's not that. Oh, does he want to track down Frieza and kill him? No, it's not that. Piccolo doesn't even really know who that guy is. Then what are they teaming up for? Piccolo says that he just wants to beat Goku. The two of them are powerful enough to train together, and it's better to train together than training alone. And this is kind of lame to Raditz, but sure, he does still want to beat Kakarot, but the other two options sounded better to him. They could even use that new gravity training that Bulma just made, or those different drones that she made too. But Raditz doesn't really know about that. He's not really allowed around Capsule Corp. And Piccolo probably isn't either because everyone's terrified of him. He can't just waltz in public. Oh yeah, that is true. By now, about a year has passed. Raditz and Piccolo have been training together. At this point, Raditz has learned to sense ki as well, learning how to control his ki better. Mainly thanks to Piccolo. The two are learning a lot from each other, with Piccolo also learning a little bit more about his people. Raditz doesn't really know much about them, but Piccolo now has a little bit of a better idea on his origin. He also learns about Frieza too, and the Saiyans, with Raditz wondering if Vegeta will ever show up. He's not going to, nor is Frieza, but maybe someday they'll take him off this planet. Despite him being more complacent now, he still does really want to leave this place. And one day, they each sense some strange powers approaching. The powers get closer to them. They're being stalked. Piccolo and Raditz act casual, and then once the powers get close enough, they get ready to attack. The Keys are malicious. They know they're out to get them, so they immediately launch their attacks, raising the entire area around them. And they did catch their opponents off guard, injuring them a little bit too. Piccolo doesn't know who these people are, and Raditz's eyes widen. They're alien, and their armor. It looks weirdly like the Frieza Force armor, but it's not the Frieza Force armor. At first he thought maybe there was someone there to get him, but that's not the clothes the Frieza Force wears. It's a group introducing themselves as the Armored Squadron, and they look pretty surprised to see a Saiyan here. Unfortunately for them, these two aren't going to hesitate to attack, with Piccolo and Raditz working together to fight off this threat, not even giving them a chance to do anything. And it is a pretty tough battle. The two of them are almost beaten, especially because they're outnumbered 3-2. But for some reason, the Armored Squadron randomly retreats, not seeing the end of the battle through. It really could have gone either way. Raditz and Piccolo of course try to chase them down. Unfortunately, the Armored Squadron does lose Naze, being held back by Piccolo and Raditz, although also being a distraction for the other two to escape. Piccolo asks what the hell that was, and Raditz doesn't really know either, but he does have an idea. Those might have been spies. He doesn't know who for, but definitely someone like Frieza. Maybe another faction out there like the Frieza Force. Piccolo and Raditz fly over to Goku's house trying to give him the news. But Goku's still not there. Chi-Chi is there though, and she's ready to fight them off, with Gohan even squaring up against them. But Piccolo tells her to calm down, they're not here to fight. They explain what's going on, and she reluctantly gives them both senzus, still not happy about Raditz being around. But clearly something bad's going on. Raditz actually does get a nice boost in power from this too. But right now, that's not important to him. He tells her they're being spied on. But by who? Why? He doesn't know either. And they call Bulma up, who alerts everyone else. Raditz would have gone directly to her, but yeah, he's not allowed at Capsule Corp still. A few weeks later out in space, the Armored Squadron returned to their base. They tell their leader what happened. They've been scouting out different planets for a while, and this one caught their eye, mainly because their scouters picked up some pretty high powers, and at one point, a pretty weird glow from the planet, coming from Dr. Wheelo. But what they found was way weirder than whatever they expected, and their leader thanks them for this news. They definitely will be returning soon, as Cooler wonders what he should do next. After hearing that they're being spied on, Bulma immediately decides to look into it. She does have her scouter still, and maybe this could help out here. Raditz wonders why she's still using that thing. She's using Raditz's scouter, and he's learned to live without it, and he knows that they could all sense ki. The people they're fighting are long gone, so it's not like they could find them with or without a scouter. And that might have helped against Dr. Wheelo, but it's not going to help here. But she tells Raditz that he should know how smart she is by now. This scouter is basically a multi-tool for her. Originally it was used to just help her build things, but after using it against Dr. Wheelo, she realized that it has actual combat purpose too, besides just tracking people's powers. She's using it for recon actually, and they scan the area where the Armored Squadron attacked, trying to find any weird clues there. She finds a few pieces in Naze's armor, but most importantly, she finds a piece of his scouter, one that was blown off when he was killed, buried away underneath some dirt, and Raditz and Piccolo wouldn't even have noticed it. This is basically their only clue of where these people came from, and she goes back to the lab with Raditz, Piccolo, and Chi-Chi, saying she'll be able to find out where this came from. She lifts it up telepathically, telling no one to touch it, and after about an hour or so in the lab, she tells them this worked perfectly. Using the armor alone would have been tough, but this piece of the scouter, well, it lets her basically reverse engineer the scouter that Naze was using. She says it was a bit tough to do, which makes no sense to Raditz because it only took her an hour, but she was able to completely re-engineer his scouter and track him down. This scouter was apparently communicating with some guy named Cooler far away. She even has the planet that he was on and the location where the Armored Squadron is. Naturally, Piccolo and Chi-Chi ask who this Cooler guy is, but Raditz turns completely pale. Did she say Cooler? That actually makes a lot of sense. Seeing that the armor was so similar to the Frieza Force, how could he not have realized? It's Cooler's Armored Squadron. He's known about Cooler, but he's never seen anything about him or his squadron. He didn't even realize that that's who he came in contact with. That squadron was Cooler's henchmen. At least that means Frieza's not after them, but this could be even worse. They know nothing about Cooler. With Frieza, at least Raditz would know something about his army, something about who he is, and he'd actually have some people that might team up with him, that being Vegeta and Nappa, although he doubts it by this point. But with Cooler, he has no clue how many people he has working with him. He has no clue how powerful Cooler is. He might even be stronger than Frieza, and they don't even know the full extent of Frieza's power. The worst part is, this could have all been avoided. Maybe if they didn't even fight the armored squadron, they would have been fine, but now Raditz is worried. They killed one of the members of the squadron. They don't know why that group was here in the first place. Maybe they were just scouting out this planet to see what it was like. And of course, they probably could have just destroyed it regardless. But there's also the chance there that nothing would happen if they didn't intervene. And now that they directly fought them, that means Cooler's probably going to come back and find them. Raditz hates to have to do this, but he's going to work alongside the group now. After telling them all this, he realized that it's their only option. They don't know when Cooler is going to show up either, or if he'll show up. This is a huge cause of concern because they know nothing. Well, just in case, it looks like they're going to have to prepare regardless. Luckily for them, nothing really happens right away. About half a year passes. Over this time, Bulma and Yamcha actually do briefly join Goku on King Kai's planet, and he comes back to Earth as well. Surprisingly enough, there's no sign of Cooler yet. But Goku says maybe everyone should just train with King Kai, and King Kai says his planet isn't just open for everyone. But Bulma tells him to chill out, it's just her and Yamcha. And since the threat of Cooler is there, King Kai decides to just let them stay. And besides the training aspect of it, Bulma thought it might be cool to see some more alien gods or whatever, and Yamcha nervously tells her to be more respectful. She's talking way too casually to King Kai, but it's nothing King Kai's not used to because he just had Goku here for a while. Now that he's back on Earth, Goku finally gets to show off Kaioken to his friends. And after hearing that they're going to be dealing with Cooler, he's confident that this will help out. This gives him a nice power boost, and no matter how strong Cooler is, he feels like he can beat him. Or at least he's going to remain confident that he can. King Kai also did confirm who the armored squadron is, so that's an extra shot of confirmation that Cooler might be after them. And King Kai will alert them if he does make any moves. Although King Kai doesn't really know where he is right now, so he won't know until he's very close to Earth. But it's fine, they still should have more time here. Well, hopefully they do. Out in space, Cooler actually has some other missions that he went on. Earth is kinda on the back burner for him. From what he saw, the people there weren't too strong, and even though they did kill Naze and give the armored squadron some trouble, they also were almost defeated by the armored squadron too. It was a pretty even battle. There's a Saiyan there, but he's a low-class Saiyan. All he knows about is Raditz, and from what he knows about Raditz too, he was part of the Frieza Force. Cooler thinks it might not be worth meddling in right now. At first, he assumes that Raditz would have alerted the Frieza Force about this, but nothing's happened so far. Cooler's actually been awaiting Frieza's arrival, thinking that Frieza would try to retaliate against him, but now Cooler's realized Raditz probably isn't part of the Frieza Force anymore. They never see Raditz leave Earth either, and they don't see any other Frieza Force members there. He could actually go to Earth. It seemed like a waste of time before. Maybe he accidentally declared war on the Frieza Force, so he thought that going to Earth would have been kinda useless, especially because there was only one person there. But now he sees there's no connection to the Frieza Force on Earth. Frieza and his army probably don't even know that anything happened, meaning he doesn't have to worry about protecting his assets. And maybe he can actually go after this planet for himself. Also, this does bring up some weird mysteries for Cooler. Why did Raditz end up on Earth? For what reason is there a Saiyan and a Namekian on that planet, and seemingly no connection to the Frieza Force either? Maybe this is worth checking out. He's gonna stand by a little bit longer, protecting his main assets, just in case Frieza does retaliate. He doesn't care about waiting too long because he's not worried that the Saiyan will grow any stronger. He'd rather be extra sure that Frieza's not gonna attack him. So, once a little more time passes, he'll return to Earth, take it over for himself, and he'll be sure to kill that Saiyan. A few more months do go by. Bulma and Yamcha train with King Kai as well, with Chi-Chi training with Goku on Earth too. Of course, Krillin and Ten join in from time to time. Even Piccolo and Raditz are there. But it's mostly just Goku, Chi-Chi, and even Gohan at some points. Chi-Chi's at a nice advantage because she gets to learn Kaioken directly from Goku. Plus, having the strongest training partner on the planet right now really does help. And it's not like they're missing out on King Kai's 10 times gravity. They have a gravity chamber right here on Earth, so everything's going pretty well for them. Also, we're at a point in the story where there's not going to be any more power levels. But at the very least, we can cover how strong everyone's going to be in terms of just regular power scaling. Goku is the strongest of the group right now, and he maxes out at Kaioken times 10. Behind him are 3 people who are pretty much on the same footing. There's Yamcha and Bulma, who are both around the same in terms of their base strength, and they also have the same level of Kaioken, that being Kaioken times 4. Although, Chi-Chi is actually stronger in base than both of them. The thing is though, her Kaioken's weaker, which only maxes out at times 3 because it was Goku that taught her, not King Kai. Her training here on Earth was better for getting raw strength, because she wasn't really focused on the different techniques that King Kai had to teach. While Yamcha and Bulma are more focused on the different techniques, and while they grew a lot more in power, they more so benefited from the technique side of it. Although everything balances out, so they're on pretty much equal footing once they're all in Kaioken. But Chi-Chi is stronger in base. Then there's Raditz, who's kind of a weird case. In terms of his base strength, he actually is stronger than all the 3 humans that I just listed. Weaker than Goku, but stronger than those 3. But the thing is, he doesn't have any technique or transformation to bring him any higher. So that's why I'm placing him a bit lower. If we go just by base strength, it's Raditz, then Chi-Chi, then Yamcha and Bulma who are equal. But if we're going by the peak of their power, Yamcha, Bulma, and Chi-Chi are all around the same, with Raditz behind them. Not too far behind Raditz is Piccolo. Below that we have Krillin and Ten, who are pretty much equal, followed by Chaozu. The weakest of the group is a relatively new fighter, and it's Gohan. He's actually started training a bit more. Mostly because his parents are doing it a lot and he joins them. especially because Chi-Chi and Goku think it's good that he has the ability to defend himself. So that's where we stand. Just under a year has passed since the last part, and King Kai alerts everyone that Cooler's heading towards Earth. At least that's who he assumes is heading there. He senses a really strong power and can't tell who it is because he's never felt what Cooler's strength is like before. But does notice a ship approaching, and there's 3 powers on it, one of which is significantly stronger than the other 2. It's Cooler and the remains of his armored squadron. By now it definitely seems like Frieza's not going to retaliate, so he can do whatever he wants with this planet, and it doesn't look like he has to worry about protecting his own territory in the meantime. This will only take a few moments anyways, and from it he'll get another planet, as well as getting rid of a Saiyan. Bulma and Yamcha return to Earth, and everyone gets ready to face Cooler. But they have no clue of where to expect him for now. Cooler's ship touches down, and immediately he sees something pretty interesting. The armored squadron only fought a Namekian and a Saiyan, and there's more people here than that, but the strangest part to Cooler is that it seems like there's more Saiyans. He has no clue who Goku is, but he could tell that he looks like one. And as for Gohan, the tail's a dead giveaway, since Gohan's tail never did get removed. He just tells the squadron to wrangle up the Saiyans for now. They have grown in strength too, wanting to make sure they claim victory this time, and get revenge for Neza's death. They try and restrain Goku and Gohan. Salza's able to steal Gohan. As for Dore, he's not so lucky, with Goku easily fending him off, and Salza's scouter picks up Goku's power. He seems pretty strong, but then he's caught off guard as Chi-Chi rushes in trying to take Gohan back, single-handedly fighting off Salza. Cooler's eyes then lock onto the 2 other people he was interested in, Raditz and Piccolo, and while those 2 fight Goku and Chi-Chi, he goes up to Raditz. His armor is an obvious sign that he was part of the Frieza Force, and he wants to know, why is this Saiyan here? Why did the Frieza Force not try and retaliate? Raditz says he's no longer part of the Frieza Force, at least he assumes so. They abandoned him here, and as much as he did want to get off this planet, it does seem like it's his new home, whether he likes it or not. Besides, he's grown quite powerful here too, and after Frieza and the rest of his squad didn't bother to come get him, Raditz thinks it's better that he's not part of that army. But then he presses Cooler. Why is he so concerned about Frieza? What, was he worried that Frieza's army would have defeated him? Actually, no. Cooler was worried that maybe Frieza would steal some of his planets in the process. And Cooler's squadron is pretty small, so they probably would have killed them. But he's not worried about Frieza's army in the slightest. He could eliminate all of them with ease, including the Ginyu Force too. As for his brother, well, Frieza's really the only concern, but again, Cooler doesn't really care too much about that. He could easily take down his little brother, even when he's using his full power in his final form. Which comes as a shock to Raditz because he wasn't even aware that Frieza had those transformations. And Cooler talks about it so casually too. That makes him even more intimidating. The remains of Cooler's squadron are defeated in the meantime. And as Cooler surveys the group, he finds it pretty interesting. You know, maybe if they combine all their powers, they could defeat Frieza, at least judging by their bases right now. Although he doubts they can make it past his 3rd form. But then they all power up and get ready to fight Cooler simultaneously. Interesting. It looks like they can lower and increase their power at will. But again, they probably couldn't even defeat Frieza, so they have no hope at defeating him. He fends them all off with pretty much no effort. He does find it interesting to see how strong these Earthlings are, but he's also impressed to see a Namekian fighting that well. From what he knows, they're mostly pacifist, but Piccolo says he shouldn't be underestimating him. He is the reincarnation of the great demon King Piccolo after all. And besides, he's not even the strongest one here. Those 2 low-class warriors are actually pretty powerful. Cooler didn't realize that Saiyans could grow that strong, and one of them can increase his power during battle too, with Goku utilizing Kaioken. And Cooler actually does start to have a little bit of trouble now. He has all these people fighting together, and a few of them are able to increase their power with Kaioken. Plus, the 2 Saiyans and that Namekian are pretty strong just in their base alone. Maybe he did underestimate them. He could continue fighting like this, but it would be a lot easier if he just transforms. He's been holding back this entire time. Cooler drops down on the ground as chunks of the earth start flying up. Lava explodes out of the ground around him, as Cooler begins bulking up, then fully transforming into his final form. His power's unfathomable. They can't believe who they're fighting right now. Honestly, Raditz thinks all is lost. With that kind of strength, how are they supposed to defeat him? But at the same time, it looks like they have no other choice but to fight. Even if they might lose here, it's not like they have a way of escaping. He'd rather fight than just stand there and die. And everyone else is pretty much in agreement too. As for Bulma, she's not too sure what to do here in terms of strategy. She does think of using the spirit bomb that King Kai taught her, but she doesn't think that'll work. Maybe it can gather enough energy to defeat him. The issue is, she doesn't think she can do it in time. No matter who does it, she doesn't think that anyone can. Her, Goku, and Yamcha could all perform it, but Cooler would obviously be able to tell that something's going on and attack them. Raditz then yells out to his brother who's fighting alongside Chi-Chi. Can't they increase their power any further? Well, Goku does try to buff up Kaioken at times 20, but that's really his limit, and Chi-Chi can't really go beyond times 3. Times 5 is really pushing it for her, and it seems like Bulma and Yamcha can't go any further either. Maybe up to times 6 or 8. But that's not going to work. They're going to have to figure out something else. Raditz is just pissed off at this whole situation. This could have all been avoided. The fact that Cooler's here, that could have been avoided. Why does he have to fight Cooler too? Why him? This all wouldn't have happened if he wasn't stuck here on this planet. Same with Dr. Wheelo. And now he's going to die just because Bulma wouldn't let him leave. And he's not going to have it. He's not going to die here because of something out of his hands. Cooler slowly starts taking out different members of the group. Ten and Chaozu are the first to go down, with Cooler launching a blast at them to try and kill them, but Yamcha and Krillin defend against it, although it does deal a lot of damage to those two. And Yamcha notices that Bulma's drawing back from the battle too, realizing that she's going to try and perform a spirit bomb. He tells her to not do it, it's way too risky. She's gonna draw attention to her, but she does it anyways, trying to charge a spirit bomb. And at first, Cooler's too preoccupied to notice. He's fighting Piccolo, Raditz, Goku, and Chi-Chi right now, with Gohan also trying to help the best he can. But then he realized one of the other fighters is gone, and he never defeated her. Looking around trying to find where Bulma is, Cooler's able to get Raditz and Piccolo gone next. With him of course trying to attack Gohan too, although Chi-Chi and Goku defend together but they can't really do too much. Bulma just needs a little bit more time to charge the spirit bomb, and Cooler's looking around for her. She's hidden away between some rocks, but he can see the glow from the bomb. Glad to have finally found her. He rushes over flying clean through the rocks. The spirit bomb's not even near completion yet, but Bulma can sense Cooler coming towards her. So, out of desperation, she decides to throw it at him. And it seems like it's too late for Cooler to dodge it. But he simply launches right through the bomb. It actually does do some damage to him even though it's not completed. It slows him down a bit, but much to Bulma's surprise, he still goes right after her, landing a powerful punch at Bulma, knocking her into the cliffside not far away, taking her out of commission too. Well, that was a pretty fun fight, especially since they pushed him to this level. And who knows, maybe if Bulma charged the attack a little longer, it would have done some more damage to him. Maybe it would have even killed him. He did want to take over this planet for himself, but it's best to just get rid of it. It doesn't seem like there's anything of value here anyways, and he tells them to consider this payback for killing his squadron, and messing with his bottom line. Cooler floats up in the air and charges a supernova. The area glows with an ominous orange light. Raditz props himself up, barely able to stand. He's not dying here. Why does he have to die at a place that he doesn't want to be at? It's not his fault either. Him being stuck here wasn't his choice. Only a few feet away from him, Goku also tries to stand up too, with Chi-Chi and Gohan unconscious by his side, surrounded by his friends who are all laying on the ground injured. This isn't where it ends. He won't let Cooler destroy Earth. Cooler throws the supernova down, and he prepares to leave Earth. But he then turns around and sees that the supernova is not going any deeper into the core of the planet. It seems like it's actually just stuck there on the surface, not moving at all. But he hears two powerful screams, and the supernova just suddenly explodes, with all the energy flying back towards him. And he looks in awe as he sees what's left behind by it. Those two Saiyans are standing there on the ground, both heavily injured, but looking different from before. They've changed somehow. They're surrounded by a brilliant golden glow. Raditz is standing at the forefront with his stronger younger brother Goku behind him. Both have golden hair. Both have become the things that Cooler was actually fearing a little bit. They've turned Super Saiyan. They don't even realize in the moment until they look at each other, seeing that they've each changed somehow. But that's not important right now. They just need to kill Cooler. That's all that matters. Almost out of instinct, the two launch up together, wasting no time, as they simultaneously land a punch on Cooler, and each quickly charge their own blast, using all their power to launch the injured Cooler out into space. And as Cooler is sent careening towards the sun, he realized who that other Saiyan was. He saw his space pod leaving planet Vegeta, but he did nothing about it, and he's angered at his own failure. Had he intervened earlier, this would have been avoided. They wouldn't have been strong enough to defeat him. Or, had he not intervened at all, this would have been avoided. Just what Raditz was thinking when he first encountered the armored squadron. Cooler is sent flying directly into the sun, and is killed, as Raditz and Goku fall to the ground together, with Raditz immediately transforming out of Super Saiyan and losing consciousness. But Goku stays awake for a bit longer, then smiling weakly. They won, and that power that they got, what actually was that? Following the encounter with Cooler, well, at least after everyone heals up that is, immediately Goku and Raditz are trying to use Super Saiyan again. And they are actually able to transform into it again, knowing the same feeling that caused them to transform in the first place. Bulma thinks it's awesome that Goku can transform. Like, yeah, he's an alien and all, but this is even cooler. Probably too soon for her to say that word. But she kinda wants to study the process behind it, and Raditz says it's simply the Super Saiyan form. They've become legends, although he didn't even realize until now that it is a form. And that there could be two of them. You know, the more he thinks about it, the more he realizes he knew nothing about what the Super Saiyan actually was. But he's apparently some sort of legend now, so that sits right with him. The reason she wants to study the form is because A, it sounds pretty cool to study, and B, it could help them out too. Goku was actually thinking about that too, besides being stunned at how great it is. Obviously the next thing Goku wants to do is get a control on it and see if he can improve it in any way. And sure, as a martial artist he could probably figure out some good ways to actually work around it. But maybe with the help of Bulma, with her help they could use science to actually further the power of Super Saiyan. Although Raditz doesn't really care about any of that, he has other ideas. No matter what kind of earth science she uses, just good old Saiyan nature is going to be what's going to get him more power. Also just his fighting expertise in general. And yeah, Goku does want to work on it on his own, but he does wonder if maybe she could find any ways to help make it more efficient. She thinks she could try and study the process behind how it works. She's not too into biology, but just for this, she does want to help. It's an awesome opportunity, and even better, maybe she could try and study that to see if humans have the same sort of thing. Humans and Saiyans are already pretty similar enough, so she wonders if maybe there's some sort of way for humans to do a transformation as well. That remains to be seen. It's just a theory of hers for now. And at the very least, they still do have Kaioken, so that's pretty good. Following the death of Cooler, we move out into space for a bit. Frieza actually never gets word of what happened to his brother. Not that he would even care much anyways, but for the longest time now, they haven't even talked. Cooler's an enemy anyways, and he has no clue of what Cooler's up to. And as far as Frieza knows, Cooler's not stepping on his toes, so he's not going to cause a fight where there isn't one. Besides, he has bigger things to focus on than a sibling rivalry. But within the Frieza Force, Vegeta and Nappa are still just doing their thing, completely unaffected by everything that's happened so far. Although, by this point, they're probably wondering, whatever became of Raditz? Maybe he's still alive, maybe he's dead. Maybe he got off that planet and defected from the Frieza Force. There are a lot of possibilities, and they're just kinda curious. Mainly because now they kinda regret not bringing Raditz back. They still think he's probably gonna be weaker than them. And he won't be too valuable of an asset, but the more Saiyans sticking together, the better. It's not like they're getting anything done in the Frieza Force worthwhile, and while they have grown stronger, there's not really much they could do to defeat Frieza. Raditz probably wouldn't help either, but hey, it wouldn't hurt to have an extra person. But also, the other reason they're curious is because maybe Raditz is planning some sort of counterattack. He's stuck on that planet, but who knows what he's been up to? Especially since there's another Saiyan on there, it never occurred to them that maybe those two are going to start some sort of rebellion against them. It's probably pretty unlikely, but it is a possibility. And maybe if they go and check up on Raditz, and come up with some sort of excuse as to why they couldn't come, it could quell any sort of tension that would have been there. Maybe Vegeta and Nappa got too ahead of themselves and thought that they could have done this on their own, but seems like they can't. But there's also one more weird thing that they're concerned about. Ever since Raditz came to Earth, his scouter has shown some weird signals. Bulma did fix the scouter and make it work for herself, but it's not like she fully knew the technology that she was working with. And Vegeta and Nappa have gotten some weird transmissions. They're clearly unintentional and it's something very buggy, but they get occasional weird voice clips, mostly the voice of some woman. But more interesting is the different power levels they're getting shown. It seems like Raditz's scouter might just be acting up because it probably got broken at some point. Although, it is worth checking out to see what's going on. A few months after the encounter with Cooler, two people show up on Earth. Nobody recognized the key, but it definitely seems a little malicious. Not even Raditz recognized it because he never sensed Ki before. Although he's getting a weird feeling that this key signature is oddly familiar. He and Piccolo are the ones to go check it out. They worked well together as a team before, so they're going to do that again. And as Raditz gets closer to the power, he sees two spaceships landing. And he immediately recognizes what those spaceships are. With Piccolo surprised as Raditz gets angry, immediately transforming into Super Saiyan and flying over. And it wasn't him transforming to get more power, it was him just transforming on accident out of anger. Whatever those two ships are, it really pissed Raditz off, and Piccolo can kind of infer what those two ships are carrying on them. Vegeta and Nappa land, stepping off to see Raditz standing there, fuming and trying to hold his Super Saiyan form back. He's gotten better control in it, but when he gets angry, of course it's going to come out easily. Vegeta and Nappa notice a very weird expression on his face. It's a mix of anger and a mix of cockiness. A smirk with rage behind it. And just out of curiosity, they pull out their scouter just to read some power levels. Vegeta, the Prince of Saiyans, is definitely the strongest person on this planet right now. At a whopping power of 50,000. It's unbelievable. No one's going to be able to contend with his strength. Same for Nappa too, who's at a great 20,000. If Raditz had a scouter right now, he'd definitely be quaking in fear. They read his power level and it's only at a measly 4,000. Stronger than he was before, but not by a lot. They then read Piccolo's power, but it seems unreadable. Probably too low for them to even pick up. But then, Raditz's power explodes. And their scouters explode too. This planet's outgrown power levels. Whatever numbers they were just reading are useless. Because Raditz yells at them, and his power soars dramatically. Asking them what the hell they're doing here. Just the sheer force of him powering up shakes the ground around them, making the two Saiyans incredibly confused. What happened to their scouters? Well, whatever. Vegeta comes up with a fake excuse. They say they would have come earlier, but they couldn't. It would have looked too suspicious for Frieza. And the reason they were ghosting Raditz this entire time, their scouters just simply didn't work that far. But they tell Raditz now is the time to leave, and they've even brought some materials to repair his ship, but Raditz knows what game they're playing, and he tells them to get the hell off his planet. What? He doesn't want to come with them? And did he just call this his planet? Now that I think about it, why does he have a Namekian with him? Why isn't Namekian even here in the first place? It's weird, they thought Raditz would have wanted to come with them. Well, maybe they're going to have to whip him into shape and bring him back forcefully. Nappa slowly walks up to Raditz and tries to grab onto him. He grabs Raditz's arm, but Raditz easily frees himself, then grabbing Nappa's arm, tightening his grip as Nappa falls to the ground. Screaming in agony, he lifts up another arm to try and punch Raditz, but Raditz simply grabs it, holding both on Nappa's arms and then slamming him down to the ground. He says they have one last chance. Leave now. Nappa gets back up, sweating, then running towards Raditz while charging a blast in his hand. He cocks his arm back and is about to hit Raditz point blank with it. But Raditz moves his arm so fast that the other two can't see it, punching Nappa in the gut as he just falls to the ground. You see, they probably shouldn't have abandoned him. Little do they know, he's far stronger than they ever could have imagined. He might be a low-class warrior to them, but he's a Super Saiyan. Vegeta simply laughs this off. What, he defeated Nappa? It could have just been a fluke. And even if it weren't, who cares that he's stronger than Nappa? He's not stronger than the Prince. Well, Raditz welcomes Vegeta to test that out. A fight begins between the two of them while Piccolo watches on the sidelines. Vegeta even laughs at Piccolo. He seems pretty unfazed by all this, but if he's going to continue being cocky like that, Vegeta will give Piccolo his dose next. And the fight ends as quickly as it begins. Raditz either dodges Vegeta's attacks, or just takes them and is completely unfazed by them. And he said this is getting annoying. With a single flick, he knocks Vegeta away. He says he expected more of them. And the funniest part is, this isn't even near his full strength. Just to shatter their pride a little bit more, Raditz then powers up to show them a taste of his true strength. Nappa regains consciousness and the first sight that he has is Raditz glowing. Vegeta obviously can't believe it either, and Raditz gives them one last chance to leave. A few minutes later, Goku flies over having sensed everything. Why did Raditz go Super Saiyan? He also sent him fighting two people who weren't too strong but did seem malicious. So it's worth checking out. And by the time he gets there, he sees Raditz standing with two other Saiyans. Piccolo tells Goku he didn't miss any fight. Well, there was a fight, but it was over the second it started. And it's been over. By now, Nappa and Vegeta have realized that they're not going to beat Raditz. But they've tried to appeal to him in another way, asking if he could help kill Frieza. They know now that he's killed Cooler. They've learned about everything that's happened so far. Whoa, Goku thinks he got here just in time. He skipped all their exposition. How convenient. And Raditz is then glad to see Goku there. He tells Kakarot to meet Vegeta and Nappa, the Prince, and another one of his fellow soldiers. And you know what? He actually likes the idea of what Vegeta brought up. Raditz is going to go with them because he sees an opportunity. He's going to kill Frieza, and he's going to lead these two Saiyans since they now fear and respect him. Frieza won't be an issue. With their combined power, they killed Cooler, and Raditz has grown stronger since then too. But he asks if Kakarot would like to join them as well, just for a brief detour. He'll come back here eventually. Well, Goku kinda has no clue of what's going on, but tells Raditz he prefers staying here. Besides, it doesn't seem like Frieza's gonna be too fun of a fight anyways. But he tells Raditz he can go knock himself out and go fight him. He'll probably win. This also is weird for Vegeta and Nappa to see. Raditz actually seems to somewhat have respect for Kakarot. He says he's grown to respect his brother as a warrior. It wasn't so bad being here, and the two of them have grown quite powerful together. It's a good thing Kakarot never came with them in the first place, and probably a good thing that Bulma prevented him from leaving. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become this strong. He wouldn't be the Super Saiyan. Or rather, one of the two Super Saiyans, telling Vegeta and Nappa they'd be surprised to hear that his little brother's stronger. And while he would like to surpass Goku, he does have a sense of pride for him too. They're low-class Saiyans and they're from the same family. If Kakarot's succeeding somewhere, that means Raditz probably is too and could reach that same level. And it's a good thing that Goku came over here because it makes it easier for Raditz. He had to let someone else know what was going on, because basically on a whim, he decides he's going to leave with these two. After all this time, he finally got what he wanted. His ship is finally fixed. He can get off this planet. But it's not going to become permanent. He's actually grown to somewhat like Earth. Bulma is called over too, and with all the parts they get, Raditz's ship is fixed. They also meet the other two Saiyans, Vegeta and Nappa. Yamcha thinks the two of them are creepy, and Bulma kinda thinks the same. Although that Vegeta guy might be her type, but maybe in another life. Raditz wishes them all well, as he unexpectedly departs Earth, with Vegeta and Nappa following him instead. At least temporarily until they can become Super Saiyans too. From here, a few years pass. Gohan finally starts fighting more, having trained with Goku and Chi-Chi a lot more often. Especially after Goku figured out how to transform, Gohan kinda wants to see if he could do that himself. Chi-Chi also gets pregnant with Goten at some point. She can't train in the meantime, but Gohan has a ton of time to spend with Goku at least. This does also mean that Goten's born a little bit earlier on in the story. Even without Raditz though, Goku's at least glad that he has some other rivals here, and he's mainly focused on Piccolo. Piccolo's kinda curious about how Goku's power works, and wants to see more of it. Besides, without Raditz here too, it seems like they're both in need of a good training partner. Krillin and Ten are mostly off on their own at Kame House, Chi-Chi can't fight right now, and Bulma has Yamcha, although everyone occasionally does train together from time to time. But also Goku does get some rematches with Piccolo, which they've both wanted for a while. Also over this time, Goku learns to get a better control in Super Saiyan, and thanks to some help from Bulma, they're able to figure out more of the processes behind it, allowing Goku to make it a lot more efficient too. Soon enough, this leads to Goku actually mastering Super Saiyan, and not too long after, Gohan's able to finally access the power for the first time. Although he still has a long way to go before he gets to Goku's level. Well, at least in terms of skill. In terms of power, Gohan's actually grown pretty quickly, which surprises Goku. Like, yeah, he knows Saiyans grow quick, but he didn't expect Gohan to grow this quickly, especially at that age. It's so weird because when Goku was that old, he was powerful, but not like this. He had his fair share of struggles, and at Gohan's power, he would have beat them all easily. And he's proud to see this, but it makes him wonder what Raditz is up to. Around the same time out in space, Raditz sneezes. Someone must be talking about him. Maybe it's Vegeta and Nappa talking behind his back. No, it couldn't be. He already put them in their place. Especially because now, he's already even improved Super Saiyan. Had he gotten help from Goku and Bulma, he could have used their respective knowledge of ki and martial arts, as well as Bulma's own scientific methods, and that could have made him Master Super Saiyan by this point. But he has improved it at least, going up his Super Saiyan grade 2. He simply calls this Super Raditz, an evolution of Super Saiyan that makes him buffer and a lot stronger, but not really much else changes with him. Vegeta and Nappa still haven't unlocked the form, but they're definitely on the cusp of it by now. Raditz did want to get a little bit more strength just to ensure his victory, especially because he was also going to be fighting King Cold as well. By the time he departed Earth, he had a better grasp on Super Saiyan and was definitely stronger than when he fought Cooler. But he realized he was probably a bit too hasty because he didn't defeat Cooler alone, it was with Goku too. But just to save face, he tells Vegeta and Nappa they're going to lay low for a while, but really, he's just using this time to train and grow stronger with Super Saiyan to ensure victory. And now he finally feels ready for it, arriving at one of the headquarters of the Frieza Force. Vegeta and Nappa make easy work of every soldier there, even the higher-ups like Zarbon and Dodoria. Although before they die, they're able to call the Ginyu Force in just in case. And that won't be too hard for Vegeta and Nappa. As long as they work quick and be wary of their abilities, that should be fine. Their training has been much more fruitful than whatever they had before. Ever since Raditz left, they've just been doing normal missions, and yeah, they did grow stronger from it. but it was never anything too intense, and that's why their powers were so low in comparison. Now with Raditz there and doing more intense training, they've seen some great gains. They're going to hold down the fort as Raditz goes in to fight the main targets. If the Ginyu Force arrives, Vegeta and Nappa will take pleasure in killing them. Raditz flies around the base destroying everything, trying to draw out Frieza and Cold, and as he's blowing up things randomly, a laser flies back at him, bouncing off his armor and doing no damage. Looking down to see the two of them together. Naturally, Frieza's fuming, and King Cold's gonna let him take care of it. He knew the Saiyans would try and betray him one day. But did they think this was gonna work? Yeah, they could have killed some of his soldiers, but they're not gonna do anything against him or King Cold. They know that, right? Actually, they know that they're gonna win here. Raditz is pretty confident in it. And then he looks over to King Cold, asking if he's heard from Cooler recently. No, they haven't. It's not like it's anything out of the ordinary. They haven't talked to him in decades. Well, Raditz says they probably won't be hearing from him anytime soon because he's dead. He's not gonna be doing much more talking at all. A golden key starts surrounding him, and he asks if the two want to know who actually killed Cooler. Well, they could probably guess that by now, as Raditz starts bulking up and his eyes and hair change color, leaving Frieza and Cold stunned in fear, as a Super Saiyan stands before them. He holds up a hand and launches a single blast at King Cold, eradicating him completely. He then turns his hand to Frieza, but says he'll wait, telling him to power up. Cooler spilled the beans about his other forms. Besides, if he wants a chance at fighting here, he's gonna have to transform. And he actually does sit back as Frieza transforms. He can't believe he's being mocked like this. But that cockiness will be the end of the Saiyan. Frieza's final form will be more than enough to kill him, Super Saiyan or not. And as soon as Frieza finishes transforming, Raditz asks if that really is his full power, making Frieza look a little bit more fearful too, as he then goes to 100%, with Raditz waiting the entire time. Is he done now? Good. Frieza tells Raditz he's gonna regret this. But no, he just wanted to shatter Frieza's pride before killing him. He could have killed Frieza in his first form, but that would have been no fun. He simply dashes towards Frieza, grabbing him by the head and then slamming him to the ground. He then picks him up by the tail, swinging him into the ground and then flinging him far away. This is impossible. He's at his full power. Is he actually being embarrassed like this by Raditz? He tries to stop himself midair, but Raditz is the one to stop him instead, flying behind Frieza and catching him. He then turns him around and looks him dead in the eye, with Frieza clearly terrified. And Raditz is pretty happy. He expected Frieza to be stronger, but hey, even if the fight wasn't too fun, killing him is. Both of his hands start glowing as he holds Frieza's head in between them. He then kicks Frieza in front of him, incinerating him with a blast, with the last vision that Frieza had being Raditz's face close up, grinning with delight with the eyes of a Super Saiyan. Vegeta and Nappa look on from far away, having just defeated the Ginyu Force without much effort. Well, looks like Raditz finished what they came here for. And while they're happy Frieza's dead, they're a little bit pissed off that Raditz is above them still, but they'll reach that level soon enough. As you'd probably expect, this is going to be one of the scenarios where Bulma and Yamcha end up together. With how everything's gone, their relationship has strengthened, and they never break up. By this time I'd say they're even married. Speaking of relationships, there's also Goten in the picture now. Like we saw last time, it's a relatively peaceful period on Earth. Chi-Chi still does want her kids to study and such, but now that she's found a great balance for Gohan's training and studying, they all have one, which includes Goten, so he's going to have a pretty different upbringing. And Goku, well, he's Goku. He's going to continue getting stronger and stronger by the day. And Chi-Chi doesn't give up on it either. Everything that's gone different in this scenario has led up to her being the same way. It's business as usual for everyone else. Piccolo, Krillin, Ten, everybody. And especially Bulma. One day, she's in her lab like she usually is, trying to build different things and mess with them. To do this, she does have her scouter on. It's been really helpful when it comes to fixing and building things. It's honestly one of the greatest ideas she's ever had, even though it originally wasn't hers. While working on whatever gadget she's working on, she drops a small part to the ground, turning around to pick it up, but then she looks out the window because her scouter picks up on something out there. Something that she wouldn't have seen with the naked eye. It detects a small power source right in front of her. The scouter zooms in and it sees what looks like a bug, but it clearly isn't a bug. It's some sort of robot. Quickly she stretches a hand out, immobilizing it with telekinesis. Now that she has it in hand, the first thing she notices is the fact that it has a Red Ribbon Army symbol on it, which really does concern her. First of all, what is this and why is it here? And second of all, does that mean that the Red Ribbon Army is still around? It can't be. Are they being spied on? Well, if they are, thankfully this will lead her right to them. This little device is cool, but it's pretty easy for her to take apart and basically reverse engineer. Also figuring out where it's programmed to go back to and who to report to. And even better, these things are being passively operated. Not remotely controlled by some person, but a computer's controlling them, and that's what it's reporting to. So whoever created this, they won't know that she found out that she's being spied on. She even discovers that it's connected to a whole network. There's dozens of other drones, and they seem to be tracking all of her friends. Of course, she immediately informs them too, and says it's all under control. All they need to do is simply go to the lab that these came from, and then their problem will be solved. She doesn't know who it's reporting to, but just where it's reporting to. A small group of fighters shows up at Jiro's lab, including Goku. Jiro can't believe he's been found, and even worse, Goku's here too. He's not nearly ready to fight him. Jiro's in the middle of turning himself into an android. That's not done yet. And androids 17 and 18 aren't ready either. He is working on them, but they're not complete. He still needs to control them. Just the physical upgrades of them are done. Jiro is pretty easily defeated, and they look around the lab to see what else is there. There's a bunch of failed android projects too. Bulma looks around collecting all the data she can because some of this is pretty interesting. She does remember hearing about Gero. That was the name that escaped her mind before, but she didn't know he was up to this. They even find his plans for Cell, which really does interest Bulma, but they deactivate Cell and make sure none of the other androids are reactivated. Although she does feel pretty bad for androids 17 and 18 because they're the only two that are made from humans. The other ones are just robots essentially. Thankfully it seems like they're not activated yet, and she doesn't want to mess with them too much because that seems unethical to her. But what she can do is remove the programming that Gero put in them. She doesn't want to go in and fix the upgrades that Gero put in. Luckily it seems like they're all working, so she doesn't need to mess with that. Although this is kind of a delicate thing too. She is able to fix the programming that Gero added to them, but they are still androids. She reactivates them and basically just has to tell them what happened. And surprisingly enough, the two have no reaction at all. They jump up out of their pods and leave, saying absolutely nothing. But as the two of them dart out of there, 17 turns back around, looking at Bulma and just giving a silent nod. It was a really bad situation, so at least she fixed some of it, even though Gero's already done irreversible damage to them. They'll find their way home, and hopefully live normal lives now, even though they're more than human. Piccolo tells Bulma that was a great catch. They're especially interested in that Cell thing. The other androids all seem like failures, but Cell is different. She deactivated the computer that's controlling Cell, but that's also another weird case. 17 and 18 were humans that were kidnapped and forcibly turned to androids. Everyone else was purely mechanical. As for Cell though, this is a completely new creature that Gero's creating. And since he's being made for pure evil, they have no qualms about destroying it. But Bulma sees potential in it. She doesn't want all this work to go to waste. Maybe she could use it for something else. What if she were to program Cell to be something good? It could take a while, but it'll be a fun side project for her. It's so strange how Gero was basically playing God and creating his own life. Although Bulma can't help but being interested in this. He clearly did have a brilliant mind, even if he was pretty insane. But this does leave some other questions. Are there any other Red Ribbon people out there? If Gero was able to make it out, maybe others have too. Luckily, Bulma has the perfect way to find them. In Gero's lab, she did find out a little bit more about him, including some of his extended family. She doesn't know if these people are alive, but she also has a way to actually research this, spying on them with Gero's own drones. There may be remains of the Red Ribbon Army out there somewhere. And as she starts looking into it, she figures out that they were pretty much in plain sight. Recently, a new company appeared, Red Pharmaceuticals. And like, come on, how could she have not realized? This company did just start though, and they don't really have a basis to attack just yet. It seems like the guy running it might even be related to Red himself. But in terms of Gero's relatives, she can't find anyone interesting, except for one person. At the moment, it doesn't seem like there's any other threats that they could act on. But Bulma finds out about someone else, Gero's grandson Hedo. Not Dr. Hedo, he's not a doctor yet. Although surprisingly enough, Bulma figures out that he's younger than Gohan and somehow he's even in college at this point. Well, it looks like the smarts run in the family and he seems even more intelligent than Dr. Gero. And this goes outside of battle espionage now. She's just looking into it out of curiosity. Hedo definitely doesn't seem evil. He seems completely separate from Gero too. And obviously he's a kid, just in school. And while she doesn't see anybody as a threat, maybe there's a way she could help out here and also prevent him from ever turning into a threat. Plus, even though Gero and Hedo were estranged, they did just kill his grandpa. So with those things in mind, and the fact that Bulma owns a giant tech company, she does something pretty unexpected. She grants a huge scholarship to the kid. Oh, and by the way, he's gonna look the same in the video in his renders because, I mean, Hedo already looks kind of like a kid anyways. Makes my life easier, but just a nice side note. But Bulma as well as her parents get to know Hedo, even offering him an internship here at Capsule Corp. He seems to be knowledgeable in every area of science. Bulma's better on the tech side, but Hedo's good with that. He's good with pharmaceuticals. He's good with biology, so many different things. He's a really great prospect for an employee. Although, as a kid, he can't really work there yet. But she could at least help him out along the way. And when she does start to get to know Hedo, she even does casually bring up his grandfather and ask what he knows about him, learning that his parents just kept him away from Gero. She only brings this up because she heard that he was a great doctor, not mentioning the fact that he was turning himself into an android, kidnapping other people and turning them into androids too. Then spying on Bulma and trying to kill her, with Bulma and friends then killing him. Yeah, that stuff she doesn't mention. This kid is crazy smart though. Besides Bulma and Dr. Brief, he's the smartest person around. And once he's older, he might even be smarter than Bulma. Plus, there's the fact that he's good with cosmetics, which could help her maintain her youth. She does want to go the natural route, and since this guy seems like a master in that kind of stuff, imagine what great things he could do with cosmetics. So on top of all her training to stay fit, this also plays into her goal. Although there's another big side effect from this. It's one that's completely unexpected, but a good side effect. At some point later on, Goku falls ill to the heart virus. As we saw before, there was no time traveler. The androids were defeated, but that also does mean that Goku's going to fall ill to the heart virus and not have a cure for it. At least, not right away. Things do seem dire, but luckily, Hedo is actually able to figure it out somehow. Working on an easy cure pretty quickly, with Goku fully recovering from the heart virus, the company can even commercialize this medicine too, since it might not be something that Goku just suffers from. And this is insane to her. A kid did that? She definitely made the right choice bringing him aboard. Chi-Chi ends up learning of him too and thinks Gohan should become friends with him. He seems like a really good influence. Definitely a much better influence than his deadbeat uncle. Out in space, Raditz sneezes. He knows it's his sister-in-law talking about him again. She never did seem to like him, but hey, after all, he did try to kill them all. more than once. But now he's beyond that. He's also beyond Super Saiyan, and assumes that his brother has accomplished the same thing. Raditz's life is going pretty well now. Vegeta and Nappa have just unlocked Super Saiyan for themselves, and Raditz, well, he's mastered it by now. Still above both of them in terms of power, and in terms of the level of the form that he's using. Vegeta still hates this because he's the prince. He should be the one at top. But nope, it's Raditz. And luckily, there's nothing to worry about for Raditz. No more Frieza, no more King Cold, no more Cooler for that matter too. Life is good for him. And let's actually go back to Earth. Just like Raditz theorized, Goku already did figure out how to master Super Saiyan way before Raditz did. Not just that, but Gohan's on the path of doing the same. Goku's just naturally better at that, and they did have help from the scientific side too thanks to Bulma. And it makes Piccolo wonder if he could ever get a transformation like that too. He does keep up his training, somewhat isolated from everyone, which does backfire at some point, because out of nowhere, Piccolo encounters someone strange. It's a foe that he instantly recognizes, although he has a new coat of paint. It looks to be cooler, but for some reason he seems to be made out of metal now. He thinks he's seeing things, but no, this is actually cooler here. With Piccolo being Piccolo, he tries to get more info out of him. Maybe he's some sort of creation by Dr. Gero, and that's what he assumes, asking if he's some fake recreation of Cooler made by Gero. Cooler says he has no clue who Gero is. He simply says that the Big Getty Star allowed him to cheat death, bringing him back to where he is now. And with this new body, they're not going to be able to defeat him again. Well, Piccolo doesn't think it'll be that hard. He quickly powers up and is able to defeat Metal Cooler, destroying him completely, although the little parts of him that scatter about, they start vibrating and start to reform into Cooler again. He fully regenerates, thanking Piccolo. He's going to grow stronger from that. Piccolo does this again, and it's a bit harder to defeat Cooler this time, but he still wins. And this time he's sure to destroy every little bit. This one doesn't reform, but in the distance, Piccolo sees another Metal Cooler coming towards him, launching in at Piccolo, fighting evenly with him. He told Piccolo, with every injury he takes, he's going to grow stronger. Sensing the spike in power, some other people come to help Piccolo, with Goku, Gohan, and Chi-Chi being the first to arrive. Terrified to see that Cooler's back, but Piccolo tells him to not fight him. Every time he injures this guy, he grows stronger, and he regenerates from it too. They need to just hold him off for now, and figure out what to do next. They need to wait for Bulma to show up. If anyone can help, it's going to be her. But Cooler can see right through her plan. He knows they're probably just waiting for her to appear and thinks that she's going to save the day. But he says they're wrong. He knows that he has to watch out for her. And not just that, if she does show up and figures out a way to defeat him, he has a lot of measures in place to prevent that from happening. He didn't come back here unprepared. Again, he was able to cheat death, and he's not going to waste that opportunity he was given. More Metal Coolers appear, one for each fighter. They're basically treading water at this point. They can't really do anything against the Coolers because, like Piccolo said, if they defeat him, he's going to grow stronger. So this isn't too tough, especially for Goku and Gohan, who are basically just sparring with the Metal Coolers. Piccolo and Chi-Chi join forces too, which allows them to all overpower the Metal Coolers. But they come to learn, it's not just injuries that'll cause Metal Cooler to grow. Just from the fights, he's learning. He knows all their moves, he's learning to fight better against them. He's continuously growing. They start losing ground quickly. And luckily enough, a lot of the other fighters show up. Krillin, Ten, Yamcha, and Bulma all appear. Sensing this battle going on, with Piccolo trying to quickly fill them in. It seems whatever this Big Getty Star is, it's the source of this. They need to find where these Metal Coolers are coming from, or where they're being controlled from for that matter. But what the hell's the Big Getty Star? This definitely came from space. And calling it the Big Getty Star makes it sound like it's some giant structure. But they don't see it anywhere. Gohan notes that he sees the Metal Coolers coming from the distance, pointing out the direction they came from. Which does seem helpful at first, but then some approach from the other side too, and from all angles next. The longer they fight, the more Metal Coolers show up. They just keep on multiplying somehow. No matter what they do, no matter how many they destroy, they just keep coming back. But Bulma thinks of one way to try and defeat this threat. Her and Yamcha immobilize one of the Coolers. But instead of defeating or destroying him, she simply starts to take the Metal Cooler apart. This technology is so foreign to her, but she finds some sort of controller in this Cooler's head, quickly pulling out her scouter, figuring out other ways to take it apart. She tells them all to buy her some time, as the rest start fighting to protect her and Yamcha. As she analyzes it, she figures out a way to track down where they're coming from. She reaches into her pocket, pulling out one of Gero's drones, then hooking it up to the Cooler, basically making it act as a drone for the Coolers. It's going to fly to the source of the Metal Coolers, leading them right to the Big Getty Star. She tells them all to stop fighting. They need to find the source. Fighting this army is useless. Especially with them growing stronger too, they need to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. The drone flies up in the air and then darts off in the distance, as Bulma begins following it with everyone following behind her. Goku and Gohan go ahead of the group, plowing through the entire army, with the others all fighting through them. There's thousands of the Coolers now. The whole landscape is being taken over by them. They fly miles and miles away, only being able to go as fast as the drone can go. But at some point, Bulma jumps up in the air, grabbing onto the drone because they could clearly see it now. There's a giant structure in the distance attached to Earth, and it seems like it's growing too. Had this been any closer to them, they would have definitely seen it easily. But with every passing second, it looks like more and more is being built on top of it. Is he planning to take all the materials from the planet to create more Coolers? That definitely seems like what's about to happen here. they have no choice. They have to go right for the core itself. Luckily, this isn't too hard for them. They're able to fight through the rest of the metal coolers, making it into the core, with Bulma figuring out more about how this works. And at the very center of the core, they see a giant cooler made out of wires. This is where they need to be. The rest of them focus on fighting Cooler, but Cooler's focused on stopping Bulma because he knows she has some sort of plan in mind. It almost seems like he was walking into his doom. Why did the big Getty Star lead him here if they knew this would happen? Bulma was able to figure out a way to deconstruct him, completely destroying and shutting down the core too, with all the metal coolers in the field collapsing as the structure itself breaks apart. Cooler is absolutely stunned. How is he defeated again? But the big Getty Star led him here for a reason, saving Cooler's consciousness onto it. As the structure they're in collapses, the big Getty Star attaches itself to Bulma, being undetected too. Basically just attaching to her clothes, grabbing some materials from around it to blend in, embedding itself into her jacket. Even finding the scouter in her jacket, wiring itself to the scouter so it won't be detected. It seems the metal cooler army has been defeated, but the big Getty Star, it's still lurking about, and no one even realizes it. They find it strange that Cooler came here in the first place, especially if he knew that Bulma would have been able to defeat him. Maybe he was just being hasty. All that matters is that they defeated him once again. At least, it seems they did. Now we enter a time skip into the Buu Saga. And let's discuss what happens over this time. That chip from the big Getty Star which holds Cooler's consciousness, it remains dormant for the time being. It's eventually able to slip out unnoticed and attach itself to one of Bulma's computers back at Capsule Corp, trying to extract all the info it can from it. What's even better is the fact that it finds Cell. Bulma's been working on this project for a while and he still has a long way to go, but this little computer chip sees an opportunity here. With the big Getty Star and Cooler's consciousness working in tandem, this chip decides to connect itself to the chamber that Cell's being held in, making sure not to corrupt it so Bulma won't notice, and instead just waiting until Cell's ready to be hatched. From all the info it's gotten, once Cell awakens, it's going to try to take over him. Cooler is interested by this. He doesn't like the fact that his consciousness is stored on this chip right now, but hopefully he'll get an actual body again soon. The big Getty Star initially had different plans for him, but now it's this. He just hopes he doesn't have to wait too long. Also over this period of time, by pure chance, Krillin ends up meeting Android 18. And since it's by pure chance, he doesn't even realize until later on that she's the same android they saved before. He knew she looked familiar, but didn't know why. The two androids are thriving and are obviously not bad people. Plus, Krillin and 18 get their happy ending and get to be together, which surprisingly is kind of rare in my scenarios. It's a small thing to know, but worth mentioning. Speaking of other things that change from the Cell Saga being different, Mr. Satan also isn't as famous as normal, but still, he's pretty famous. He is the world champ after all. He's just not a huge hero that saved Earth. Satan City isn't going to be named after him, but he still is a big name there. A celebrity known everywhere. It seemed like he was before he even fought Cell, so even here, he's still going to be pretty well known and loved, which also means Videl might still become a hero and be just as well known. But while she's out being a vigilante, she notices something strange. At some point, 4 different heroes appear in the city. One goes by the name Great Saiyaman, but the other 3 look completely different from him. One looks to be just a kid dressed in purple, and he doesn't really fight much, he acts more like a sidekick. While the other 2, they don't even look human. They look like pretty old-fashioned superheroes actually. It's really weird at first, but the city ends up accepting these 4 people. Gohan did end up becoming the Great Saiyaman, but also over this time period, he became closer with Dr. Hedo as friends. Chi-Chi really likes this because Hedo is a great influence on Gohan. And the two both think superheroes are awesome. So, Gohan ends up becoming a superhero, and Hedo wants to join. He's already hardened his skin, so he's immune to bullets and stuff. But there's more beyond that he does. At some point, he ends up creating 2 androids of his own, inspired by old-fashioned superheroes named Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. At first, these 2 were basically just meant to train Gohan to be a superhero, but instead they realize, wait, they could all be superheroes, all 4 of them. It's great for Gohan. It's a fun way to protect his identity, and still protect the city from threats. Plus, the Gammas get to do more than just being training partners and basically security guards for Capsule Corp. And it lets Hedo get involved too, although he's not really that strong. Just invulnerable. He's just glad to be a part of it though. This is all really weird for everyone. Like, the Great Saiyaman alone would have been weird enough, but then those other 3 show up. And with the other 3 being there, that's good for Gohan because he doesn't always have to go out as Great Saiyaman. This lets him protect his identity for a little bit longer, but eventually Videl does find out because he flies too close to the sun. But as for the other 3, she has no clue of who they are. She wouldn't know who Hedo is anyways, and the other 2, they are just Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, they don't have another identity. And Hedo continues to improve the 2 Gammas. He built Hachimaru way earlier on, and had him spying on the fight with the metal coolers. He always knew that weird stuff was going on Earth, and had it follow Bulma one day, realizing that she's incredibly powerful, and friends with aliens. And also, they're fighting other aliens, who have merged with robots or something. Of course, he finds this awesome, but seeing the metal coolers kinda convinces him that he wants to make an android now too. Granted, it's a completely different thing than what metal cooler is. But imagine how awesome that would be if he had the funding to finally make an android. He could do this and he can make them superheroes too, and unlike what he originally did, he doesn't have to rob graveyards. He makes robots, which is way more ethical and way better. And yes, by now he's Dr. Hedo even though he's still a teenager. More of a reason why Chi-Chi likes Gohan hanging around with him. And you know, she doesn't mind if they all train together. Gohan gets Hedo's good influence, he gets to grow stronger, and remember, Chi-Chi also is still a fighter here, so she's a little bit more lenient with all that. But now that leads us to the tournament in the Buu Saga. And of course the roster here is going to be very different. Gamma 1 and 2 don't join because they don't feel it's right for robots to be part of that, and Hedo doesn't want them joining either, but we do get some extra people there that weren't there before. Obviously Bulma's going to be one of the people to join, with Chi-Chi also being part of it too. With Bulma being in the tournament, Yamcha also ends up joining because obviously he's way more active here. Ten and Chaozu are more active in the scenario as well, and they end up joining too. Although something really strange happens in the first round of the tournament. Spopovich and Yamu end up appearing. But they end up fighting people way stronger than them and they can't get any energy. And once the two Kais try to intervene, it's already too late. They try and retreat. But Piccolo's already figured out who these two Kais are and has spoken with them about what's going on. So, now knowing about what they're here to do, Piccolo tells the two Kais that he's just going to handle it. Let the rest of the tournament go on normally. And it's really good that it didn't go according to their plan because otherwise they would have gotten energy from one of the fighters here. But instead they're just retreating, trying to do a different strategy. Piccolo fills everyone else in, and he ends up leaving with the Kais alone. They're going to chase down Spopovich and Yamu, and they should just be able to stop Babidi alone. Some of the others do want to go along and stop Babidi, but Bulma advises them to stay here. She thinks it would be smarter this way. Especially if they're looking to steal energy, why would they bring all these strong fighters right to them? If anything, they should have one person go there or at least try to draw Babidi out here. Maybe it's best to have everything go normal, and if they could have some great fights here, maybe that will draw Babidi out of where he is. So instead of having to track down Babidi, it leads Babidi right to them. So that's what they decide on. Piccolo's gonna go with the Kais, and if they find Babidi there, great. But if not, Babidi will probably just show up at the tournament himself, and that'll make it even easier for them. So the tournament continues, but it's lost a few of the members. Videl and Chaozu are eliminated on their own, and Shin, Kibito, and Piccolo just end up leaving. So then we get to the quarterfinals. The first battle there is one that's been a long time coming, Chi-Chi versus Bulma. Now, Chi-Chi has been keeping up on her training a lot. In terms of skill, she actually is better than Bulma, but Bulma does have an advantage in terms of raw power. And that's not to say that Bulma isn't a skillful fighter, because she definitely is, especially when it comes to using ki in unique ways. She's very creative and a great strategist when it comes to battle. But even though she does have an advantage in terms of power, this helps even the playing field for the two of them. And Chi-Chi knows how strange it is too to be back at the tournament. It's been a while since she's been at one. And she even lets Bulma know that the whole reason she started fighting again in the first place was because of her. In retrospect, it is kinda silly. But despite all that, she's glad that it went this way. And even if she doesn't win here, she doesn't really care too much because she knows Goten's gonna win the junior division. There's no one to contest him there. Bulma does end up winning this fight, but it's a pretty close battle too. Next we have Yamcha versus Ten, with Yamcha taking the win. Glad to have this rematch and glad to win it. Ten knows that Yamcha's grown a lot, especially with Bulma and everyone else around him. But it's so strange to think back to their first fight before, and seeing how much Yamcha's improved. He's proud of his friend. The next battle is even crazier though, and probably the craziest one in the tournament because it's Goku versus Gohan. Or rather, Goku versus the Great Saiyan because his identity isn't exposed. But Goku doesn't want to hold back here. This is their chance at a great battle, especially because if they fight at full power, it might even draw Babidi out here and help everyone else. And worst case, if it does nothing in that regard, then at least they get to have an all-out battle for once. But Gohan does want to protect his identity, so he's careful about it. He immediately transforms, going beyond Super Saiyan. By now they have Super Saiyan 2, so that's what he goes into. And he keeps his glasses on. This way people realize that the Saiyaman is the Golden Warrior, but they don't realize that both of those people are also Gohan. The Gammas are in the crowd watching as well. Gamma 2 thinks it's awesome to see the Golden Warrior return. Honestly, he liked that look for Gohan. Although, Gamma 2 much prefers his Saiyaman getup. This is a nice mix though. Hedo's also in the crowd and his jaw just dropped to the ground. This is awesome. Especially because Goku also goes Super Saiyan 2. And he's been looking forward to this battle. Of course, he and Gohan have sparred a lot and trained a lot together. But now everything's different with how powerful Gohan is. He's proud to see that Gohan's reached this level. And of course he's known about it for a while, but still. He always thought that Gohan would surpass him one day, but he doesn't know if that's happened yet. And this battle will be a perfect way to decide that. He wonders how that training with the Gammas has gone, and Gohan promises to give Goku a great battle. The fight is really hard to keep up with for everyone else. Of course all of Goku and Gohan's friends can keep up with it. Hedo can't really see what's going on, but the Gammas tell him what's happening, and Hachimaru also gives him a video feed. So despite being at normal human levels, he still gets data on what's happening, and gets some pretty cool replays. They're fighting at such amazing speeds, and everyone in the crowd is entertained. At first the battle seems like it's pretty even, but as it goes on, little by little Gohan is showing more and more power. And Goku notes it too. It's kinda like Bulma versus Chi-Chi. The two are at similar levels in terms of strength, although Gohan has the edge in terms of power and is growing during the battle. And as for Goku, he has a huge edge in terms of skill. But that power difference is making this battle even. But slowly the gap becomes wider and wider. Gohan shows even more strength. And it's a tough fought battle, but Gohan ends up winning here. Goku's obviously not bummed out with the loss because this is his son that won. No one in the crowd understands why Goku's so sentimental with the Great Saiyaman, and it's weird because some of Gohan's classmates know that that's Gohan's father. He's almost treating the Saiyaman like his son. Strange, but Dragon Ball civilians are apparently really stupid and don't notice that that's Gohan. The following match in the quarterfinals is Krillin versus 18. Krillin is stronger in this scenario than he is normally, but I feel like 18 would still win here because she's just naturally advantaged being an android. So next is the semifinals. The first battle is Bulma versus Yamcha. Again, another really close match. At this point in the story, the gap between them is really small. Bulma has grown to be an exceptional warrior, but they're both doing pretty much the exact same training. Yamcha does have more experience than her in the long run, but by now, they're pretty much as close to even as anyone can get. And they know everything about each other too. I mean, they're married. They both have the same powers, the same abilities, they're both humans. They have the same training, pretty similar fighting styles, everything is pretty much the same. This fight is dead even, but I'll say that Bulma secures a very close victory, solely due to strategy and how uniquely she uses her ki here. The battle simply comes down to that because they're even in every other regard. The next one after that is 18 versus Gohan, and obviously Gohan wins, with the final battle being Gohan versus Bulma, which is a fun fight, but of course Gohan's gonna win there. So the Great Saiyaman takes it all, although he ends up fighting Mr. Satan, but takes the fall there so he doesn't make him mad. That is his potential girlfriend's father. And Chi-Chi's happy too because both of her sons earned some money from this. Now Gohan didn't extort Mr. Satan for money, but he did pay him out here. And as for Goten, he wins the junior division with no effort at all. Not even needing to transform, which he can do by now. So the tournament goes peacefully, but what happened in the meantime? Well, there's a reason Babidi didn't show up. Piccolo and the two Kais chase down Spopovich and Yamu, getting to where Babidi is. At first it's a bit tough. Deborah ambushes them and they have to fight him off. But by the time the fight with Deborah starts, Shin teleports away mid-battle and then comes back with Goku. This is right after his battle with Gohan is finished. Kibito is able to quickly heal him up, and Piccolo's surprised that Goku's here, but Goku actually told Shin about this before they all left. He assumed that he was going to lose against Gohan, but if Gohan ended up losing there, then Gohan was going to go with them. But since he lost against Gohan, he doesn't need to be at the tournament now because he knows that Gohan's just going to win the whole thing. It's a shame that he missed out on some other matches like Bulma vs Yamcha, but he'd rather help out here. Piccolo, Goku, and the two Kais fight against Deborah, killing him pretty quickly, and Babidi starts panicking because they enter his ship, getting rid of the rest of his soldiers. And you might think, well, maybe Piccolo's going to go Majin here because he's had a different backstory, but no, that's not going to happen. Piccolo's been brainwashed before and he's not going to let that happen again. And he also doesn't really have a reason to give into that. So Babidi barely gets any energy. The most he gets is from the fight with Deborah. But he's eventually killed and the Buu Saga is stopped before it even happens. That didn't go according to plan, but it went a lot smoother than the Kais expected. They safely take away Buu's egg and end up leaving Earth, thanking Goku and Piccolo and all the others for their help. And thankfully for Goku, he and Piccolo make it back to the tournament in time for Goten's final match. Goku is a little bit bummed that he missed the matches, but he knew that it would be pretty easy for Goten anyways. But strangely enough, a few weeks later, there's another visitor that comes to Earth. A very familiar person who hasn't been there in a while. Raditz reappears, this time with Vegeta and Nappa. Out in space, he sensed Goku and Gohan's energy, wondering what was happening, thinking that there was a big battle, but apparently there wasn't. It was just a normal tournament. Well, there was the stuff with Babidi, but that was all avoided. Oh, he thought he was missing out on something, which is why he came here, but hey, he's still here for a reason. He wants to test out his power against Kakarot. It's about time for a rematch. And also, Vegeta and Nappa kind of wanted to see Kakarot's power too. By now, both of them have Super Saiyan and are pretty okay with it. And Raditz just recently unlocked something pretty cool, showcasing his own version of Super Saiyan 2. And he's not too surprised to see that Goku has the exact same thing. The two of them briefly do have a battle, but Goku ends up being the victor, although he comments on how strong Raditz has grown. He didn't realize he got that powerful or the fact that he got Super Saiyan 2 in general. And he actually does tell Raditz, he's not the strongest here. That would actually be Raditz's nephew. Gohan actually just fought Goku and he ended up winning there. Which not only amazes Raditz, but it really amazes Vegeta and Nappa because Gohan's not even an adult yet. And he's already surpassed Kakarot, who's a low-class Saiyan to begin with, and he surpassed them a while ago. That's just insane. And Raditz also explains what's went on in space too. The Frieza force is now fully gone because they got rid of all the scraps. The Saiyans have stuck together and just done whatever, basically only focusing on training because they just want to test out their different powers. And they also learn of Cooler coming back, which freaks Raditz out because apparently he came back as a robot. Well, at least he's gone now. Raditz and the Saiyans end up leaving again, but they say they'll be back pretty soon. They need to catch up with this planet more, it seems. And since things are still going pretty fast right now, we have one more short time skip, going into Battle of Gods. Beerus does end up awakening, having a dream prophesizing the Super Saiyan God. And we can kind of breeze through Battle of Gods because it's pretty short in general, and nothing really happens in this version of it either. They get the other Saiyans to come there to help for the ritual. They actually do have enough Saiyans. Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Nappa, Raditz, and Goten. They don't even need Pan in the ritual. Although, this doesn't really work because two of the Saiyans that they have aren't necessarily fitting for the ritual. It's not like Vegeta and Nappa are terrible people still, but they're definitely not righteous enough for this ritual to work. Hell, maybe even Raditz might not be enough. So, Beerus is about to leave the planet a little bit disappointed, but not angry because there's also no Buu incident. But there is something that calms him down. Goku actually offers the idea of going to train with Beerus and Whis. Yes, that ritual does exist and that seems like it is the way to unlock Super Saiyan God, but maybe Goku can find some other way to unlock it. He knows that through hard work he can unlock something. Maybe it's Super Saiyan God. Maybe it's another Super Saiyan form, like something beyond Super Saiyan 2. A hypothetical Super Saiyan 3 maybe. He knows that if he trains with them, that's how he's going to break his limits. They're the best option for that. And for all he knows, he can become the Super Saiyan God that Beerus wants. So, he ends up going with them, ready to train to become a Super Saiyan God. And it doesn't seem like any crazy threats will show up on Earth soon anyways. But there is one dormant that's lying around. We have a brief time skip from the last part. Cooler is getting very impatient. It's kind of a bad situation for him. He still does exist and is conscious on the Big Getty Star's chip. You know, he's kind of reconsidering merging with the Big Getty Star. Like, it's been years that he's been stuck as this. This is getting annoying and he doesn't even know if it'll be worth it. He should have just taken over Bulma's body, or even Goku's when he had the chance. But the Big Getty Star guided him to this. He doesn't even know if it's fair to call it the Big Getty Star anymore because it's just a single CPU. Although both of them are monitoring Cell's growth. Day by day, he's getting more data and getting closer to perfection. Dr. Hedo even helps with the project, but it's mainly Bulma so he doesn't touch it as much, but he definitely does help a little bit. She even got some DNA from Babidi as well because the drones followed Piccolo during the Buu Saga. Although, I guess we can't really call it the Buu Saga because he never came to be, but you know what I'm referring to. And Dr. Hedo does know about that Beerus guy too. Wonder why Bulma didn't get his DNA. Honestly, she was pretty terrified. Not just the fact that he might have seen one of her drones and gotten mad, but also, imagine if the Cell project goes wrong and he has the power of Beerus. That could be really bad. But luckily, it's not going to go wrong. Her and Hedo have checked it daily, and nothing is wrong with his development. They don't notice the stray computer chip hiding underneath his pod, with the Big Getty Star once again grabbing materials from around itself to conceal it. And everything that Cell learns, it learns. It could have just used this data a while ago and made a new body, but instead, this might be a better option. Just taking Cell's body, that's going to give it so much more power. And finally, after all this time, Bulma finally has a breakthrough. Cell is complete, and she's still not too sure if she wants to awaken him. She kinda did this as a side project just to see if she could, and this project would be really helpful for all the other fighters. Imagine, the perfect warrior that they could all spar with, all can learn from. Without an ounce of evil in him too, he's gonna be a purely good being. He basically has the mind of Goku, although a lot smarter than Goku. More like Gohan with Bulma's intelligence if anything. And also with all her great resources, Cell's not gonna be born imperfect. Once he's awoken, he's gonna be perfect from the get-go. And at least looking like what Dr. Gero envisioned a perfect android to look like. She's not creating a weapon like Gero was, just seeing what she's capable of in terms of building artificial humans, and also seeing if she's able to help restore others. There's also the fact that Cell's able to regenerate. The research that went into creating him, it could help heal so many people. Not just her and her friends, but everyone in the world. With Cell, they get to see the properties of Namekian regeneration on someone who isn't Namekian. It's incredible. And this is much better than those Wheelo drones that she built. They are kinda outdated now, especially in comparison to the two Gammas. This is the most advanced thing that she's ever done. And Hedo thinks it's the most advanced thing he's done too, but he doesn't say that in front of the Gammas. Gamma 2 still believes he's the ultimate android after all. And he thinks this could be fun. Imagine having Cell as a hero alongside them. Gamma 1 likes that idea too, but he's a little bit more cautious about it. They have to wait to see how this guy acts. Although 2 tells him to relax. Nothing can really go wrong here. I mean, look who's building him. They know Bulma's good with this, and Dr. Hedo, are they doubting his work? Gamma 1 isn't doubting him, he just doesn't want to be too optimistic without being cautious. Even better, Bulma thinks that studying Cell might help her push the limits of what humans are capable of, at least when it comes to transformations, because Cell is part human too. It's going to be a lot easier for him to transform than a normal human, obviously. But she can study how Cell does this, and see on a biological level how transformations affect him, and try to apply that to herself or Yamcha or any of her friends. She has kept up with her training, and she's tried everything to transform, but doesn't know if it's really possible, besides that buff full power form that Roshi has. And as for Kaioken, there's no potential for her to turn that into a form, and also, she doesn't really like that form that much. She only uses it out of necessity because it does tear her body apart and probably will make her age a little bit more. But thankfully training with Ki has made her more youthful, and Dr. Hedo has helped too. But now, it's finally time to see where all this research led her. A few days later, Cell begins awakening. Yamcha, Hedo, and the Gammas are there to watch too. He steps out of his pod, looking a little bit confused. He was just born after all, but he smiles. Bulma also pulls out her scouter to read his vitals. And that's when she notices something terrifying. Right as Cell steps out of his chamber, a little piece of the machine he's in detaches itself, which wouldn't be too big of a concern, but it's moving on its own. The Big Getty Star noticed that at the time and started making its move. And before they could do anything, a bunch of wires shoot out of that small chip, implanting itself directly into Cell's head, strapping the chip of the Big Getty Star onto him. Before Cell can even say anything, his eyes widen. He lets out a massive amount of ki, and the room explodes. Thankfully, everyone's fine. The two Gammas protect Hedo, and he is bulletproof too. Yamcha asks what's going on, but they don't know. They don't know what that little piece of tech was that attached itself. But Bulma goes pale as she realizes what that could be. Is that? No, it can't be. It can't be the Big Getty Star coming back. They destroyed the metal cooler core and all the Big Getty Star things alongside it. She would have seen this. She made sure to analyze the area and made sure nothing was there. Unless a piece of it broke off and snuck itself into the lab somehow. The easiest way to avoid the scouter was, well, to attach itself to Bulma, or the scouter itself. A silhouette walks out of the debris. It's Cell, but he has a much different expression on his face right now. He rotates his arms and cracks his neck, trying to get used to this new body. Yamcha senses his ki and senses no maliciousness within it, but that's kinda useless because all the maliciousness is within that chip. Cell's mind and body are still Cell, but they're being controlled by something else. Cell begins talking, and they don't know what his voice would have sounded like, but they immediately recognize who the voice sounds like. He has the same exact voice as Cooler. What, are they surprised to see him? They almost did have him defeated all those years ago, but they underestimated the power of the Big Getty Star, as well as Cooler's resilience. He cheated death once, so cheating it again? That's not too big of an issue. And he thanks Bulma for synthesizing this body for him. It's incredible, way greater than he could have ever imagined. He still has all the powers of the Big Getty Star, and so much more beyond that now. Truly, he's glad it went this way instead of him just winning back then. He couldn't have fathomed achieving a power like this. The Gammas tell Dr. Hedo to retreat. Bulma and Yamcha get ready for battle, with the two Gammas standing alongside them. Gamma 2's a bit bummed as well. He was hoping this would work out without any issues. Although, Gamma 1's not happy that he was right about being cautious. And depending on how strong the sky is, they might need another superhero to help them. The 4v1 ensues, with Gamma 1 also contacting one of his friends, then immediately joining in the fight himself. And as they all attack Cell, he just effortlessly dodges all of their attacks. He knows all of their moves after all. He has Bulma and Yamcha's DNA as well. He can use all of their techniques. As for Gamma 1 and 2, of course he doesn't have DNA from them because they're artificial. But he has all of their data. Plus, they are retrofitted with infinite energy. He also has the same thing. And Cooler has access to all of this. He even noticed that this body has data on himself. And he's actually flattered to see that. They thought his DNA was that valuable that they put it in here. Well, they definitely have the right idea. Cell, or rather Cooler, then starts his counterattack. With no effort at all, he fends them all off. But Cooler senses two powers approaching, and based on Cell's own data, he could tell who the two powers are. So, they called for the strongest backup they could think of. Two blasts descend from the sky, spiraling into each other and hitting Cell directly. They do no damage, but as the smoke clears, he sees the two Gammas striking a pose next to the two Saiyamen. Cooler's not sure why Gohan's wearing an outfit, but he's too happy to even question that. Gamma 1 called the Saiyamen over here because he knew they would be able to help, although they didn't expect the threat to be Cell of all people. But once Bulma explains what went wrong, they realize how dire the situation is. Of course, Videl doesn't even really know that much about Cooler. But this worries Gohan too. The power of Cell controlled by Cooler of all people, he doesn't even know if he could fight that. He's kept up with his training, and he knows that he's a lot stronger than before. He powers up into Super Saiyan 2, going to his full strength. But even with all 6 fighters together, he doesn't know if it'll be enough. But he puts on a confident face. Cooler should know that Saiyans are always growing stronger, and he's no exception. With his great potential, he'll find the strength to defeat Cooler. Whether it be through his determination or rage, he's gonna win. It's his duty to protect everyone as the Saiyaman after all. He immediately jumps into the battle, as the main powerhouse here. But the other 5 are all really helpful too. You might even think that Videl might not be that strong here, but no, she is. Gohan's not the only one that's training with the Gammas. And since Bulma already knows a lot about how to have humans grow as fighters, Videl's gotten a bit stronger on her own too. Granted, she's not training constantly like Goku for example, but as superheroes, her and Gohan need to remain strong after all. But unfortunately for them, Cell has so much power in store. This does push him to use a little bit more power, getting a bit more serious. Despite only being in Super Saiyan 2, it's Gohan. With him continuously training, even with just this form he's performing well. And it's just enough to continue to hold off Cell. Mainly because they have one last trump card that Bulma called in. A large pillar of light appears. And Cooler instantly recognizes who it is. That's Saiyan Goku. He's arrived here. With Beerus and Whis next to him, watching not too far away, Bulma contacted them to make sure that Goku could help. And Goku already gets the gist of what's happening. Honestly, he's kind of excited to fight Cell. Even if this is Cooler piloting him at the moment. But just like everyone else was saying, they've defeated Cooler twice before, so they could do it again. Especially because Cell probably doesn't have data on what Goku just got. Actually, something he's had for a few months and is continuously trained with. Goku walks towards Cooler, with a fiery aura flaring up at his feet, creeping up around his body. And with no change in demeanor at all, he calmly transforms. His hair turns red, he looks youthful, and his power can't be sensed by any of the mortals there. He tells Cooler that he can call this the Super Saiyan God. It's gonna make all their previous forms look like nothing in comparison. And Gohan tells Goku about what Bulma noticed. There's apparently a small chip attached to Cell. If they destroy that, they'll destroy Cooler's consciousness, and they don't even need to kill Cell either. Actually, it's not like they need to be worried about that anyways, he can regenerate after all. Plus, Bulma has been using her scouter to monitor him. It seems like something is fighting back against Cooler. Cell is pure good after all, with influence from Gohan and Goku. From what Bulma can tell, it's like a computer's antivirus fighting some sort of attacker. That's exactly what's going on here. But at the same time, they don't need to hold anything back. If they do need to destroy every little bit of Cell, then so be it. The fight restarts, now with Goku at the forefront. Bulma, Yamcha, and Videl are at their limits though. Gamma 1 and 2 aren't able to do too much damage. Thankfully they can continue fighting because of the infinite energy. But they can't regenerate either, so any damage they take, that stays there. Even Gohan's kinda slowing down a bit. And Cooler's glad that Goku's here. He can draw out the full power of this body now. This will be a perfect test run of what he's capable of. Cooler showcases his full strength, as Goku has his first true fight in Super Saiyan God. It seems he's keeping up at first, especially with the help from Gohan alongside him. But slowly, a gap appears in between their power. Not only does Cooler have infinite energy with Cell's body, but the more he fights, the more he learns how to utilize it, the more he grows and gets data from Goku's new form. It is still basically the Big Getty Star after all. Every time Cooler's attacked, every time he uses an attack, that's more data to grow from. He's constantly learning and growing. Before, Goku and Gohan slightly outmatched him, but now, Cooler slightly outmatches them. They're gonna need a whole lot more than just to evenly match him, and Goku can't believe it. This form was so powerful. How is Cooler already on this level with Cell's body? But he remembers, everything that he does, it becomes part of the Big Getty Star. Cooler starts manhandling Goku, but also being sure to keep the others away. They do try to help the best they can, but it doesn't go well. Beerus is also nearby, a little bit disappointed. The Super Saiyan God isn't on his level. But if Goku can't handle this battle, he shouldn't be on his planet. That's not going to be his rival. And Goku knows all of this too. How is this power not enough? He's worked so hard to achieve this. And the form is great, but he's being outclassed by this. He's not going to have it. Cooler's threatened their existence twice already, and now he's back for a third time. It almost angers Goku. He wants Cooler to be gone for good. Thankfully, he can maintain Super Saiyan God pretty well. He already has perfect control over it too. But there was only a small window where that could have been used to defeat Cooler. Now with Cooler growing stronger, that can't happen. Goku and Gohan continue to furiously fight back, with Gohan feeling the same sort of emotions too. He's trained all this time, grown so strong, and he can't even defend everyone here. He can't defeat someone that's already been defeated twice by them. What kind of hero is he? His friends are nearby and in danger, and just as important, or even more important, his family's in danger. The whole Earth is in danger, his father's right there, his wife is nearby. If they lose this fight, they're the first to go. Gohan doesn't even want to imagine that, but he knows it's a possibility. And Goku feels a strange sensation. For the first time in a while, he's feeling true anger. At himself for not being able to defeat this guy, but also the fact that Cooler's here threatening them. And while Gohan can't sense anything that Goku's doing, he notices something strange change with him. The red aura around him flares up once more, gaining a bluish hue too. Cooler's a bit intrigued to notice this, but brushes it off. It's probably nothing. But that blue hue grows fiercer and fiercer. Eventually his aura is entirely blue. Goku's hair then stands up, as if he's transforming into a Super Saiyan, because he is. Instinctively, without even realizing it, while in Super Saiyan God, he begins transforming to a Super Saiyan. As Beerus and Whis watch nearby, they notice something that looks familiar. That blue aura. They've seen it flare up around Goku before during his training, but this is different. Beerus is excited. He could be on the cusp of something brand new, a new level beyond Super Saiyan God. And without even realizing it, Goku continues fighting, having turned into a completely different thing. He has the musculature of a Super Saiyan, and the hair of a Super Saiyan, except it's blue. But he's not the only one who's gained new power. Gohan continuously gets back up, trying to fight Cooler, not even acknowledging the transformation from Goku, because he's being overcome by his own rage. He gets a second wind, a huge burst of power, a rage boost that he hasn't had in a while. The two begin pushing Cooler back, and he can't tell what's happening. He's not going to have it again. He's not going to be defeated a third time. These Saiyans will die here and now. Quickly, he launches up in the air. This body still should be able to survive in space. He cups both of his hands together, taking Goku's own attack, launching a Kamehameha towards the ground. But Goku and Gohan then stand together, with Goku telling Gohan to not hold anything back. But it's not like Gohan needed to be told that anyways. Simultaneously, they launch a Kamehameha. Their beams swirl together, a father-son Kamehameha. Goku's godly blue aura flares up. And as for Gohan, he's still in Super Saiyan 2, but his aura has some slight changes. The sparks of electricity around him, they turn red, and for a second, his eyes even flash a red color. It's almost like he's on the verge of some other transformation, but he's not quite there yet. It's just a second wind of power, a rage boost that fuels him. They put more power into the blast. It makes contact with Cooler's attack and completely overwhelms him. And it's not even a contest. Bulma's watching nearby in her scouter too, zooming into where Cooler is. She watches as he slowly disintegrates from the blast, screaming out, "He could cheat death again! He could do it a third time! That's no issue! After he waited all this time to steal Cell's body, it's not gonna come to this!" But he's just coping with the inevitable. Cell's body is completely destroyed, and she verifies that the Big Getty Star's chip goes along with it too. And judging by his reaction, there's nothing else that they should be concerned about. That was the only remain of him. Although, Bulma's a bit bummed. Cell didn't come back. All that work for nothing. At least they're safe now, but still. She can't help but feel bummed. But then her scouter beeps, and notices something that she didn't even realize was there. Miraculously, there's a single particle left behind from Cell, and it starts vibrating rapidly, generating more particles around it. There's a brilliant glow of light in the sky, and it descends down to the ground, reforming fully into Cell. Everyone's on guard. But he stands there with the same warm smile on his face he had before, but his face turned into an expression of worry and fear. He's glad he's back to normal, but he didn't realize that all happened. He apologizes profusely for it. He bows and introduces himself formally. His name is Cell, and he's glad to finally be here. And with a great display of power like that, of course out in space, the Saiyans note that too. What was that power that they felt? It felt like Kakarot and Gohan. Kakarot's power disappeared briefly. But Gohan's power was incredible, and they were fighting an equally incredible opponent. You know, Raditz thinks it's time to check on his younger brother again. Following the battle with Cell, the Saiyans decide to go back to Earth, They want to know what kind of opponent they were fighting there and what happened with Kakarot's energy. Why did it just randomly disappear at one point and then come back? It could just mean he died, but also it could mean he got some brand new type of power. And once they get back there and learn what happened, Raditz decides they might as well stay on this planet now. Vegeta and Nappa actually don't really like the idea, but Raditz has grown fond of the planet. Even before he left, he got to a point where he realized Earth wasn't so bad. Besides, they've basically just been training to get stronger in space, and nothing's really happened there, so maybe this is the best course of action. And funny enough, he's basically their leader right now because he's the strongest. So they just all stay here for the time being. Of course, not too long after, we also have the Universe 6 tournament, which is kind of a wash. There's not really a point in covering it because, well, Cell's going to be in the tournament, and he's going to beat everyone relatively easily. But one important thing to note is the fact that he picks up some interesting data on Hit. He has extra abilities inspired by the Big Getty Star. Bulma thought it would be useful to implement this into him. The ability to just copy attacks after seeing them. It's not necessarily a novel concept to her either. She's seen Goku do that to some extent, so she wondered what it would be like if Cell was able to. But not like what Goku does, copying them perfectly the first time. Basically redoing the attack one for one, and not just simple attacks. Cell tries to copy Hit's time skip. At first when he's fighting Hit, Cell does have an advantage in terms of power, but Hit has the advantage with time skip. But once Cell sees it, he's able to use time skip for himself, and then battles Hit within the time skip, easily defeating him, and thanking the assassin for the trick. He says he'd love to fight Hit once again. Hopefully they'll cross paths again sometime soon. But this tournament was a good test of Cell's strength. With an opponent like Hit, no one knows how they would have been able to defeat him. Even Goku, because he probably wouldn't have gone into the time chamber and trained for the 3 years beforehand, and it's also too early for him to get Blue Kaioken at this point. Although he is working on trying to utilize it, but here he wouldn't have been able to use it. But now with Cell as an ally, Goku has some ideas. And immediately after this arc, they decided to test out Cell's power. They kinda did test it out against Cooler, but that was different. Cooler couldn't fully use Cell's body right away, and now Goku has a new form, with Gohan having also tapped into a little bit more power himself too. This time they can have a fight with Cell, and there's not the threat of anybody dying. Goku shows off Super Saiyan Blue, while Gohan shows off Super Saiyan 2. When they fought Cooler in Cell's body, he felt some deep reserve of power come up, due to the immense rage he was feeling. He doesn't know for sure what it was, but he feels like it's the next step in his evolution. Cell does actually end up beating them in this battle because he has full control over his body, plus he has new abilities to utilize. But this is going to be great because they have an opponent that they can't really beat right now, and he's going to grow just as strong as them. The more they fight with him, the stronger he grows too. And Goku notes he senses godly ki within Cell. How is that even possible? Well, Bulma actually did that. During his training with Beerus, there was a point where Goku did come back to Earth briefly, and Cell did get some of his DNA. She just wanted to correct him to make sure he was purely good, but this actually gave him some access to godly ki, because Goku was training towards it at that point. He doesn't have a full control in it yet, but once he gets it perfectly, that's going to make for a really interesting increase in power. She really has outdone herself. She's proud. And studying Cell helps her learn more about the others too. It seems that human cells don't have much of an effect on his power and how he transforms. Cell isn't necessarily transforming, but they see that when he fights, certain cells in his body are excited, growing a lot more powerful and being stimulated by ki. And the effects of them are very similar to what she sees within the Saiyan cells that she studied for Goku. It seems that his Saiyan DNA is doing most of the work, with a little bit of Piccolo in there too. But Saiyan cells mixing with others also does help a ton because look at what happened with Gohan. And that does remind her too. So she hasn't really made any progress on finding human transformations, which is fine. She just mainly did that for her friends because she wasn't really going to use a transformation for herself. Her initial goal with training was trying to maintain her good looks anyways, and while that's not her main goal right now, that is a little bit in there somewhere. So even if she could transform, she doesn't know if she would want to ruin her looks. Her and Zarbon would have gotten along. But right now, since she basically accomplished that goal, her main thing is just to see how strong humans can grow. Not just to help her, but to help her friends too. She wants to push the limits of humans, and she doesn't see how she's able to do that here, except through Gohan. He is half human after all. And she actually calls him into Caps Corp one day. Gohan's intrigued by the scientific side of Cell, with Bulma showing him all the info that she has on him. Gohan has kept up with his training, but he's had a lot less time to train because of his family obligations and the fact that he's working now. But he obviously still does want to grow stronger. Mainly because Goku encourages him, and Bulma says she could help. Also, she's kind of encouraging him too. She says they should take a trip to Beerus' planet, him and Cell. Just briefly, just to see what they could try and unlock there. Well, Gohan's not really too sure, but yeah, he guesses he can go there for a week or two. Maybe a little bit longer, but he's gonna have to take a sabbatical from work. She tells him not to worry. Consider it an all-expenses-paid trip. This is for the sake of research, so she'll fund it like research. She then calls off Beerus and Whis, telling him she has some good food for them, as well as an offer. They kind of regret giving Bulma the ability to contact because it seems like she just calls when she needs help. But she yells at them to get over here because it's important, kind of terrifying them. And they get there and see that Bulma just wants 2 people to train on Beerus' planet. Goku's also come along too. And he thinks this is a great idea. Having Cell and Gohan go along would be awesome. He wanted Gohan to go in the first place. But especially with Cell there, that could be awesome. And you know, Beerus is kind of intrigued. Not just because he's being bribed with food, but because of the power that he noticed from these two. It seems that Gohan has some sort of hidden power locked away, and as for Cell, well, they don't know what his limits are like. And it seems there's only one way to find out. Months and months pass from this point. Gohan and Cell go to Beerus' planet, training on and off again. Now Gohan does have to go back and forth occasionally, which does annoy Beerus a bit, but he gets bribed with food, so hey, whatever. Plus he does get to see a bit of his power. And when Gohan's back on Earth, he does work with Bulma on Earth trying to find a scientific way for him to evolve. She says they're all so used to regular training that they haven't even considered the scientific side to it. She can make their transformations a lot easier. This worked with Super Saiyan as well. She was able to help Goku get a better control in it just because she was able to study it. And hey, even though she can't find a form for herself or Yamcha or anybody, she at least wants to try it for Goku and Gohan. Of course, Raditz and crew eventually get wind of this, wondering what the hell they're trying to do there. They want to go to Beerus' planet and train because they want to get whatever godly power that is, but now it seems like Gohan's working for something different. And it makes Raditz feel all high and mighty, telling the other two Saiyans that's his nephew. Ever since he became the strongest Saiyan, he's been getting kind of an ego trip. By strongest Saiyan, I mean strongest of the three. He's still weak in comparison to Goku and Gohan. But hey, still pretty strong in his own right. Although they wonder if Gohan could really ascend Super Saiyan 2. That seems like their limit besides going into godly forms. Is there truly something beyond that? Soon enough, the Tournament of Power begins because Zeno does get bored at some point, and after watching the Universe 6 tournament, he wants to do this one. And they're not short on people this time. They actually have way too many people here. I imagine the team would be Goku, Cell, Gohan, Bulma, Yamcha, Chi-Chi, Krillin, Piccolo, Gamma 1, and Gamma 2. Now Universe 3 isn't the only one with robots on their team. But they're not using Gamma 1 and 2 because they're short on fighters, they're using them because they're powerful. They have way more people they could ask to help. Videl, Chaozu, Tenshinhan, Roshi, hell even Vegeta and Nappa could have joined. Same for Raditz obviously. And they don't know Android 17 well, but he could have joined here. Plus Android 18, but she wasn't really too interested. Despite Krillin going. Besides, after what went different with the androids, those two aren't much of fighters anyways here, even with their amazing power. The Saiyans want to actually join too, but there's no spots left. Although Raditz tries to sneak in on his own, kind of like Yamcha did in the original story, although he's a lot more persuasive here. He almost resorts to death threats, but realizes he could do a more level-headed approach. He actually tries to reason with Krillin, and Krillin lets Raditz take his spot. And it's not because Krillin's weak or anything, he's probably stronger than normal in this scenario actually. But it's because Krillin thinks that Raditz's power will be more helpful here. He is stronger than Krillin, but Vegeta and Nappa are a bit annoyed that they can't join either. They try and have Chi-Chi switch spots with them, but she won't. And as for Bulma and Yamcha, those two are actually above the Saiyans right now, thanks to their amazing training and resources. Besides, it's not like they would have switched anyways. Once again, Raditz gets an ego trip. He gets to join the team while they don't. And in a fit of anger, Vegeta and Nappa decide to leave Earth for a bit. They have another idea in the meantime, so they go out into space for now. Although the last few members don't matter too much anyways because Universe 7's team is already busted. Gohan has unlocked a brand new power thanks to Bulma researching how to stimulate his cells like a transformation. They've experimented with this together. He found it fascinating. And it's not like he didn't work for this. He did work for it, but he worked for it in a much different way than normal. Instead of normal training and such, this was his scholarly side coming into play. Although there was some physical training involved too. And Bulma takes a lot of pride in it. Again, she might have not found a new form for herself, but this is still nice because she did find a new form. And she's glad because this tournament will be a great test for that. Telling Goku it's kind of funny. Goku helped Gohan discover Super Saiyan, but she helped Gohan discover something even greater. Goku says she doesn't need to rub it in, but yeah, he is pretty happy about this too. Besides, Goku's got something of his own locked away too. Thanks to having a great training partner with Cell, he also has his own brand new power, something that he's working towards. The tournament begins and everyone decides to show off what they've learned. It's funny for Bulma and Yamcha at first because they see some other people using key weapons. But the two find it kind of funny, since most of them are basic things like swords. They decide to show off some real key weapons. By now, Bulma has such a perfect control over ki, as well as Yamcha, that both of them can basically create anything that they can imagine from ki. But just as important, we gotta show off the skills that everyone else has learned in the meantime. Goku and Cell's training was very effective, especially with Cell now getting a full access to godly ki. He's strong as is, and anything Goku does, he's able to copy pretty quickly. Although, Cell knows that he's overpowered, so he lets Goku have his fun here, deciding that he can go at the strong opponents. Goku has gotten something that Whis really wanted him to get. He doesn't have complete access to it, but he can sort of tap into it at will. Goku decides to go fight Jiren. At first he shows off his normal powers, the ones that people have seen, including a relatively new one, Blue Kaioken. But he does have one more in store. A strange aura surrounds him. All the gods look on with amazement and terror. His demeanor completely changes, and it looks like he starts just moving automatically. His physical appearance hasn't changed much, but Goku's utilizing a new form, Ultra Instinct Omen. He's briefly seen the complete version of UI, but at least for the time being, he has access to this way earlier on, mainly thanks to having the perfect training partner there, Cell. Cell could also utilize the same thing here, but again, he's gonna let Goku have his fun. Also, if there's an issue with Goku, Gohan might just want to jump in too because he's also testing out his new power. But it might have been better if Gohan fought Jiren because this is a little too much. The other fighters in Universe 7 watch on as Gohan transforms, a little bit shocked to see this new change, especially Chi-Chi. She didn't think he would look like that when he transformed. As much as she hated the delinquent hair, this is even worse. His hair's grown far longer, it's completely white, his eyes have turned red. He looks scary. This is what Bulma helped him unlock? This is Gohan's own new unique form, Beast Gohan. The culmination of all his training, a display of his inner rage, and the product of scientific research between him and Bulma. Truly a testament to who Gohan is as a warrior. Which is also great because, as you could probably guess by now, the tournament isn't exactly too hard. You have Goku who already has Ultra Instinct early on. Although this might make it a bit too easy for him, and he won't have a catalyst to push him to Ultra Instinct right away, so he'll be an omen for the entire tournament. I will say though that the scenario's Goku is stronger and more skillful in base than the main story's Goku at this point. And then of course Gohan and Cell are there. And the rest of the team's pretty great in their own right too. Especially with the addition of Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 on the team. On the surface it may not entirely look like it, but so much of this team was affected by Bulma. Cell was made by her. Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, if she didn't find Hedo, they wouldn't have been made right now. Beast Gohan was accessed through science and training. Then of course Bulma herself grew like that, and everyone else on the team, especially Yamcha, benefited from her scientific input. That even does include Goku, although he more so likes finding out how to improve himself on his own. But with that, the tournament is complete. Universe 7 takes the win, and I feel like they would wish the universes back. For an MVP, it would probably be someone like Gohan who would be the leader here, but I feel like pretty much anyone on this team would wish for that. Raditz is the only one I'd be concerned about, but he's not going to be MVP. But speaking of Raditz, once they get back to Earth after the tournament, the other two Saiyans are gone. Where do they go? What, did they abandon him again like they did so many years ago? Whatever, he's used to it at this point. Besides, it's better being on Earth. He doesn't know where they went off to, but he doesn't care. They're probably just jealous of his strength and the fact that he got into the tournament. Following this would be the Moro arc, but nothing's really going to happen here. First of all, if Moro did get freed, Cell would be able to fight him pretty easily. He has instant transmission, time control, Ultra Instinct, and if he studied Moro for a bit, he could just copy his abilities and counter it that way. But Moro probably wouldn't even be freed here. Buu wasn't destroyed. Shin and Kibito did get Buu's egg and actually just contained it on their planet. They didn't destroy it. So without Buu being destroyed, the seal on Moro doesn't get destroyed either, meaning he's not going to be able to escape or regain some of his magic. But even in the off chance that he does, it's not really going to be a big deal. And that's not even considering the fact that Cell already has access to magic too. I mean, he has some of Babidi's DNA. He's the perfect counter and he'd be able to do that really easily. Plus, he even has the Mafuba because he has the data from all the fighters around him. He has so many ways to defeat Moro that it wouldn't be an issue. But he's not freed in the first place. And then as for Granola, that's not really going to happen either. It's probably going to be business as usual for him and the Heaters, because without Frieza there's not really anything to push that even further. And plus, without the Moro arc, they don't have 7-3 in all his data. Small note, but worth mentioning. As for Superhero, that's obviously not going to happen. The Gammas are already made, and Red Pharmaceuticals isn't going to get Hedo on their team. Maybe they'll be able to make some sort of androids, but they're not going to be nearly as good as whatever Hedo can make. So that arc doesn't happen. Although there is one arc after the Tournament of Power that I just skipped here. But don't worry, I didn't forget about it. About a year after the tournament, Vegeta and Nappa do return to Earth. But strangely enough, they didn't come back alone. They have 3 new people with them. Yes, Vegeta and Nappa have been training out in space, but more so, they wanted to see if they could find any other Saiyans out there, because maybe that's the key to strength. If they find other Saiyans and look at how they grow, it could benefit them. Although that didn't really happen, but they did find one that was really interesting. One of the Saiyans they found is Tarbell, Vegeta's brother, who's the weakest by far. But then there's 2 others that are pretty interesting. Paragus, who's an older Saiyan, and his son, Broly. They've noticed some pretty interesting things about Broly, and thankfully, they're able to avoid being killed by him. Nappa was the one to actually find the 2, and then once they got to Vegeta, they realized that this was their best bet of getting off of Ampa. Plus, they met him in space, and if they killed him there, their ship would have been destroyed, and everyone would have died. It did take a while, and Paragus is still really reluctant to be with them, but at least those 2 get a happy ending and they get off Ampa. Plus, Tarbell's actually there with his wife too, but he'll probably return to his home planet sometime. He was curious about seeing this new planet though. But they're going to still continue to look for Saiyans because there might be others out there. Especially with all these other survivors, there has to be someone else. Now, they don't know for sure, but this is the best way to combine their Saiyan power and grow even stronger. And Raditz actually likes this idea. Maybe this way they could also surpass Kakarot and his sons. So this might be a next best step for them. Now we jump back forward to the present, around the time where a superhero would have happened, I guess. Bulma actually is on Beerus' planet one day because she goes there from time to time to observe how it is there. She does feel pretty content with where she is now. She achieved all her goals and has helped her friends grow a lot. Her goal never was to become the strongest. Originally, it was just to maintain her good looks, but that goal has completely changed. She saw how great it was to be a warrior like this, to learn martial arts, to fight like that. And she's glad that happened. Plus, her original goal was somewhat maintained. It's just strange for her to think that this started off as something so simple and petty. But she found a whole new world that she wasn't even aware of, figuratively and literally, seeing how great this all is. All her friends benefited alongside it too. And she gets to see the product of what she helped with. The reason she's here is because she's watching a battle between her friends. Beerus is pretty pleased with the rivals that he has on this planet, to the point where even he starts training again. Goku has full access to Ultra Instinct and is really good with it now. Gohan's been utilizing his beast form more, and of course he's split between training and his home life, but he has a great balance here. And then of course there's Cell, the perfect warrior who has insane growth. And all 3 of these warriors, they've benefited from Bulma's help. Sure, we might have not focused on them too much in this series. We didn't even really get to see Cell do too much, but this isn't their story, this is Bulma's. Although even when you look at it like that, consider the fact that they're all in much better place where they would have been without her being a Z fighter. And not just them, all the other people back on Earth. There's also the people that would have been dead but are alive and thriving. Raditz and Nappa who would have died originally, Cell who would have been evil and would have died. And sure, while she's not the strongest, she's glad that her friends are. Watching a 1v1v1 between Goku, Gohan, and Cell. a battle so amazing that it terrifies Beerus. These mortals have surpassed the gods, and it's all thanks to Bulma. And this is where our story ends. What'd you guys think about this story as a whole? I wanted to try to take a different route with Bulma, and personally I like the route that I took here, but let me know what you guys think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And now that you've finished this series, I'll link a similar story on screen that you guys might like. Anyways, thank you all for watching, thanks for supporting the story all the way through, and I'll see you all in my next video.